welcome everybody to Sansmemetrics podcast episode 001. Not that I'm new at this is just the first time for the Sansmemetrics name. So I'm welcoming Derek Syroka from Michigan State, or the state of Michigan. We'll talk about the difference of that, maybe I just thought of. And Derek is a young man that was introduced to me by Crow 777 and Jason. Jason Ingram from Secrets of Saturn, and again, Crow 777. Derek has had some success using the, we're going to credit the Mark Stevens approach. Mark Stevens can be found at thenostateproject.com, and you can find him on YouTube. Just search Mark Stevens. Briefly, Mark Stevens basically gives us information of how to use the Socratic method in a courtroom and essentially do things like challenge jurisdiction, asking for evidence that the rules and regulations apply. So if anyone wants information on that, check out Mark Stevens. His book is, correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, Adventures in Legal Land, and I think government.
I know the name of his book, but as long as you got his website down, that should be.
Yeah, I think he wrote a book, Adventures in Legal Land and Government Indicted. Anyway, check Mark Stevens, and if you're not familiar with Crow 777 and Jason Ingram, the title, what was that, about 2 weeks ago that you were on? Week and a half?
Yeah, about that.
It was episode 225, titled, Does a Deed Mean You Own Property? So now that's what I want to talk with Derek specifically about here. And Derek, I'm going to play devil's advocate in some way.
Okay.
Just asking you simpleton questions. So somebody told me, Derek, that you're doing something with property. What are you involved in exactly in relation to property and deeds?
So I have started a lawsuit in federal court suing the state of Michigan. The whole purpose behind it is I'm taking a big legal stab to try to get the residents in this county area the right to their property back to them. And the way I've seen all the other procedural stuff to go through is not going to get there. So I had to take some pretty extreme measures with that.
Okay,
so
well,
if you want me to elaborate on that, I can.
Yeah, I mean, I have a home here. I bought it in cash on a foreclosure. I got a good price. I have a deed and I think, or a title. I forgot what it is. My lawyer gave me something. And I pay my property taxes and all that, and my school taxes. But I mean, I'm the property owner, aren't I? To my house, my property, right?
That's what they're going to call you. They're going to call you that even when you're in the courtroom. If you ever have delinquent taxes and you have a hearing about it, they're going to call you the property owner or the person with legal interest or personal interest in the property. The problem is that you cannot be the owner of something and have to pay somebody else to use it. Somebody else has got to have a higher title to your property in order for you to use it like that.
Right. I mean, yeah, that has always seemed weird to me that, again, people, I'm paying devil's advocate here. I'm just trying to help listeners. I'm familiar with a bit of what Derek's saying, but again, just remember, I'm kind of playing the basic perspective. So, I've been told all my life things like, it's not polite to talk about politics or religion at the dinner table, and there's only two things certain in life, death and taxes.
You know what my favorite is when you ask them, hey, why do we pay taxes on something we own? People say, it just is what it is.
Exactly. What can I? Well, what can I do? I'm only human. I'm just one man.
That's how we've always done it, but that's not the truth. They may have always done it in their lifetime like that, but that's not how it was set up.
Mm. Yeah. Personally, when I look at even the official history that we're given, I personally don't see much has really changed since the feudal slash serf system, or we can call it masters and slaves. We can apply different names, but
Yep.
you have your ruling elite, and then there's us peasants, serfs. Now we're
Right.
called taxpayers or employees.
You're even called a tenant on your property tax bill usually. They're like, you're just a person that's renting the space, like it was an apartment or something. You're a tenant. So
Yeah, so I mean, your average Joe, anybody with a sane mind, does not like this thing that we supposedly buy a house, whether it's mortgaged and or bought outright.
Yep.
And for those that don't know, what you know what's the Latin definition of a mortgage? What does that mean?
I don't know. It's probably got something to do with death.
Yeah, well, il morte, death, and a gauge, a grip, right? What is a 12, a gauge? A mortgage is literally a death grip.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But that's why they got rid of Latin.
You pay off your home loan, all that interest. You probably spent 30 years, the majority of your life doing all that, working it all off. You think that when that lien's gone, that you own that property and it's yours finally. But truth be told, the county has already put a lien on it ever since you registered yourself as the tenant on that property, and they're not going to remove that lien.
Indeed. Why don't we talk? I think a lot of people don't even know what really a lien is unless you've actually engaged in suing somebody, or obviously are a corporation or a lawyer. I mean, what is a lien exactly?
So a lien is kind of like collateral. Whenever you go to borrow from somebody something, you have to put something down so that in case you're not good financially, they can reclaim your property back. And that you can get that done with, just a third-party loan from your local financial place. You could put your cars up on lien for that if you want, or your house. If you hire construction workers to do something on your house, they can have a construction lien. They could actually take over title of your house if you don't pay up.
Mm-hmm. So it's basically, could we say it's like an insurance policy? Mm-hmm. To if you don't meet your contract obligations,
right,
then I can come and have a claim against your property, right, which isn't really your property. So it's funny.
So everybody's fighting over something that the state's going to claim ultimate title over in the end. Okay. So that's why I had to go the route I did and claim the land on my own terms. And now fight that in federal court and tell them prove me wrong. Mm-hmm. But I can't do that. So
yeah, I know. Again, if you listen to people like Crow 777, many times when he's talking about this our legal / lawful situation, and with this COVID-19 and everything that's going on, a big question is, do we even have what's left of a platform as far as courtrooms and legal documents? Or
it's getting bad, I'll tell you that.
And by the way, any news in Michigan? Because like New York State, I guess we're in phase. I don't even follow it. I call me crazy. I turned on the local news this morning. Yeah. I got so angry and nauseated. God, I don't know how people watch it. Put me in a bad
the governor can issue her executive orders all she wants. It's up to the stores to implement them. Mm-hmm. Just like the no shirt, no shoes policy. They don't have to serve you. That's on their discretion. And some stores can say, hey, if you have a mask on, come on in. Some can say, we don't care if you have a mask on or not, come on in,
Well, I've seen some businesses. I saw a brief story. Don't ask me where it was, but I would do it. I would say no masks allowed.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. To me, I'm thinking you're coming in to rob me. Call me old school, but you're walking in with a mask.
Yeah, my security camera's got to be able to know who you are. You know, we don't have.
I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking you're walking in with a mask on. I might be reaching under the counter for something I may or may not
Sure.
have that may be registered. I don't know. That's my
Sure.
that's my inclination. So
Big Steak, John and Onion. I don't know if you ever heard of that franchise. It's like a sandwich place. They actually told their employees you don't have to wear a mask either. And I saw all over the news how much flack they caught for that. It's like why? They're trying to tell you don't worry about it. We're still going to serve you, you know. But man, that media just loves to stomp on people for not following governor orders. Like, ooh.
yeah, and you got to wonder: are they really receiving that much flack, or is there more support of it? Because
well, just for comments on the internet, they're catching flack, but I don't think it slowed their business down one bit. You know, I think a lot of people don't want to wear masks, and so they're happy to go somewhere they don't have to.
it's become a fashion to at least here in New York. I mean, I don't know what level you got to the masks, but where I am, it's virtually 100% of people wearing a mask.
It's a lot here. It's a lot for sure. But when you go in the suburbs, like where I'm at, it's not bad. You know, people are walking around, hanging out. They'll have neighborhood fire pits and they get together and stuff. We're not worried about that.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, I see people, especially let's say younger, younger families and stuff. They're, summer's here. They're having their bonfires and cooking out now, and you see 10, 12, 15 people. But man, you go to Lowe's, Home Depot.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's 100%, really. I mean, I did catch one guy, young guy, man, whatever, walking in, and then he turned around immediately at the door, and I stopped him and I said, "Yeah, you're going in without a mask, right? Please do." He's like, "No, I'm going back to get mine." And I have a sheet, probably seen it. I don't need to wear a mask. I'm medically exempt. And
okay.
So, and I gave him an updated one where you make somebody sign it under personal liability. So no, I did it a couple times. People like, "I'm not signing that."
Yeah.
So, I do my part.
That's cool.
By the way,
those executive orders and crap.
Well, an executive order, going into the legal thing, as far as I understand, maybe you have some information, and we'll get back to the property and liens and all that. But as far as executive orders, from what I understand, maybe you can correct me, the only thing those apply to, whether it's federal, from the president, or whether it's state or county, those only apply to employees of said jurisdiction. So, I guess if you're a state trooper or National Guard, then Cuomo's executive orders apply to you.
Right. Exactly.
But if you're
unemployed.
See, we can talk. Yeah, if you're okay with using, and we'll get on that, U.S. citizen. I pretty much, when I get into challenges with people, I pretty much say that I'm nothing but the living man.
Mm-hmm. And that's fine, and that's kind of how it should be. Really, if law were to behave like it's supposed to, they should have to prove step by step how you are a part of this legal system, that legal system, and prove that you're connected to it, instead of just assuming it the entire time. That's Mark Stevens spot on.
And the one thing Mark Stevens hasn't touched on, if we do want that, and we do want them to be legitimate, we have things like an oath,
mm-hmm.
a social compact,
yeah,
or a legal binding contract. Those are three platforms that we can, get people to do what we agreed upon via transparency, and whatnot. But government doesn't really do that much, do they?
Right. And what do we want as a society? Do we want to just have a government that keeps producing laws and keeps diminishing rights because that's where it's headed?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we want to say, you know what, we've elevated enough as a human society. I think we can start backing off the laws and regulations a bit because our morality is up high enough. It'll take care of it.
Yeah, and I remember candidate Trump was one of his big things. That's, you know, I thought, hey, that's, you know, just getting rid of regulations, and I don't know. It seems like he does some of
I think
it.
he just did that to help his friends out.
Well, I did listen to him a few days back when he was up in Maine about I thought that was kind of interesting, the Maine fishermen and whatnot. It seemed like it was good. Who knows? There's probably, well, whatever. So let me ask you: is the Pledge of Allegiance, is that a contractual oath, or is that just?
That's just culture.
Okay.
That's all that is. Yeah, it's
And
not legally binding.
Is culture genetic, or is it an OS?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. Could you inherit something that's been in your culture? I'd say yes. On some type of mental, spiritual level, I think you may inherit a way of life or something like that. But no, I think this is definitely planned in advance. You know, remember we used to be able to say "in God," and we had to pledge allegiance in school and elementary. And now they took that away, and they even took the Pledge of Allegiance away. And you know,
Did they have really? It's not.
As far as I know, I haven't seen it in my kids' school, so who knows?
Huh.
Yeah, I'll bring one up right now. Kids! Troy! I'll let you know when he gets here.
See, I'm pretty certain my daughter was in school here in Central New York, and I'm transparent, New Hartford, New York. I'm pretty certain she said they had the Pledge of Allegiance.
We got a technical.
I could be wrong.
You, sir.
Okay.
You guys have to say or sing whatever the Pledge of Allegiance in school.
Yes.
Oh, you do. You say "in God" when you say it.
I forgot. Yes.
Hey, young man, how you doing?
That's my son Troy.
Hey, Troy.
So apparently they are still doing it there. Oh, you don't say "in God"?
I don't believe so.
Can you recite it?
What's that?
Can he recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
I don't know. Can you recite it?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so they haven't changed. That's what I do remember.
Oh, not bad. So there's a little bit of faith. There's a little bit of hope there.
I was a bad kid, man. Something didn't sit right with me, like worshiping a flag, and I got to a point very early. Middle school,
seems kind of weird, right? Like, why do I have to pledge my life to something? I don't even know life yet.
An inanimate object.
Yeah.
And by the way, isn't idol worship against Christianity? And it's
against Christianity. Yep.
I don't know. I mean,
stage. I know.
I'm just asking. I don't know.
They got all their saints and stuff that they have different things to do with.
And the crucifix.
Yeah.
I mean, like George Carlin.
Either. I don't see why you want to put the symbol of your God's death on you. You know, that just seems.
George Carlin made a joke about it. Like, if Christ comes back, so I think the last thing he wants to see is.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know. I mean, hey, I'm not ragging on any people's spirituality.
Yeah.
But I do have a problem with the church.
No. Yeah.
Whether it's Islamic or Judeo or Christian or Buddhist or personally, I don't see why I need an intermediary between me and my God or Creator.
Right.
I smell something's rotten in Denmark when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying is all.
Yeah, and that was one of the big things that brought the whole feudalism back to America, because we did separate from the monarchs, the kings and queens over in Europe that were saying we own all the land, but we didn't quite kick Catholicism out. Because we had a freedom of religion in America, that allowed the Catholic Church to keep on, and they were big on the feudalism with them. So, but they didn't quite get a foothold in law until after the Civil War, and then it took
I've always had a question. Is it freedom of religion that we want as human beings, or is it freedom from religion? And by the way, government, in my view, the belief of government, the religion.
Freedom to
Yeah, I
choose
mean, it seems like religion gets hammered into us when we're born. You know, if you're born in some parts of the world, like let's say the Middle East, you're probably going to be in Muslim.
Islam. Yeah.
You know, if you're born in North America, odds are you'll be a so-called Christian. You might, whatever. But yeah, I think it's
Nowadays,
freedom from religion.
I think most of the people are atheists nowadays. It seems like they believe more in the TV and whatever it tells them.
Well, to me, atheism is a religion, and I've also called it a gateway drug to the bigger religion of scientism and statism.
Yes, it is.
And it's understandable because the day and age we're living, you know, I was born into a Catholic family, and it was, you know, going to religious school, and I was abused and whatever. But I mean, it's pretty sick what churches do, and
yeah.
So
yeah, my dad went to Brother Rice Catholic Church down in Detroit, and his sister went to St. Mary's, also in Detroit. Man, Catholicism is rampant in Detroit and all the big cities. You know, Boston, Jersey, Philadelphia.
Oh, the old traditional.
Baltimore for sure.
Yeah, the traditional Northeast. You know what a good book about that is and how it segued is, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. E. Michael Jones.
Okay.
He's got a lot of good information. He calls it, you know, the Logos Rising, and he gives a lot of history about, you know, how they broke up. People that wear small hats and Protestants, you know, targeted the Northeast specifically, you know, New York, New Jersey, and all the, you know, Philadelphia, because a couple generations ago, there was no such thing as, we're kind of going off in the weeds here, but we'll get back. You know, as white people, because I'm old enough to remember people saying, you know, I'm Puerto Rican Irish, you know, especially in places like New York, or, you know, I'm Irish Italian. And this white thing is really the past 15, 20 years.
Right after the Civil War, all the way up through to the 1930s, you got all the Irish, Italians,
Irish, Polish.
America. Yeah, and, you know, there's even a lot of Jewish slurs being thrown around at that time, too. So it wasn't safe to be Jewish back then either, you know. So white, I don't think anybody really cared that you were white. It was more like, what country did your parents come from?
Well, you know, when I've been accused of being Puerto Rican, especially in the summer. I got a lot of Mediterranean blood, so I'm not white. You know, I'm not a pink, you know, Irish or something. So I can fit in Miami and. People,
I've had people call me Mexicans because.
Yeah, I mean, you have that black Polish thing. You could be Mexican.
I don't know. Can't tell, but.
Well, you don't have that Aryan look. You know, when I was living in China, most Chinese, because I wasn't tall, big, and fat, and really white, most people would, you know, they would hear my Chinese wife and I speaking, and people would literally say to my wife in Chinese, "Oh, your French is very good," because they think I'm more European, and they don't know what the difference.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, white, black, and that's a whole other issue with this whole.
And also, you know, with the Jays, because we were talking about the Jays, they also were getting their freedom of religion in America also. You know, they couldn't practice it back in Europe. They got booted out. They got booted out by almost everybody over there. And during that Spanish Inquisition, they came over to the Caribbean, got settled, and then slowly started migrating into North America more and more. So they were enjoying the freedom of religion. You know, they weren't being persecuted in America. The Catholics got it, Protestants got it, and witchcraft got it. If you think about that, they weren't safe when it was the British colonies, but then when they turned into America, you could practice witchcraft.
Well, that's why my question said, is it freedom of religion that human beings need, or is it freedom from religion, which then you can make your own individual choice what to, if so be it, what to believe in, or I mean, personally, I don't like belief.
I think religion is like taking a step in one's morality. So even if you're a Luciferian and you are, uh, learning about Lucifer and how he was such a great guy for some reason, but it's helping you build up your own ego because maybe life crushed that for you. And you need that to build yourself back up. Now, you could graduate to other levels of religion, and maybe you'll get to the point where you're like, I don't really need a doctrine anymore. I think I got this handled now, So maybe it's stepping stones.
Well, if we're living in the moment, and I know it sounds kind of cliche, but personally, that's what I've tried to do my whole life, and that's why I like Michael E. Jones. The only problem I have is he kind of says that the Catholic Church, he's a devout Catholic, so be it. But he's got a lot of good information. But what I don't like, and I disagree with him, is that his claim that the Catholic Church has somehow a monopoly on logos. I'd like to challenge him, because logos, from the Greek, if anybody's unfamiliar with, basically logos is, translate to Chinese, the Tao, or the way, the go. I mean, it's just it's natural law, God's law, the way, the Tao, whatever you want to choose. And I just don't like that his suggestion that the Catholic Church has a monopoly.
Yeah, I don't like anybody who, I'm not going to say I don't like them. I don't give everybody full credit when they only pigeonhole themselves into this specific group's in charge of everything that went wrong. Like, no.
Yeah, I know.
It's a mixture, brother.
It is, and if you look at every culture, there is the Chinese have it, but they covered up Taoism with Confucianism, which is perverted, just no offense to anybody, fake Christianity.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, and by the way, I didn't mention, Derek is a relatively recent Army veteran. You've been out for what, a year and a half, 2 years?
I've only been out I left in November, so.
Oh, geez.
7 years, 7 months, I mean.
So, all right. And you were in for about a dozen years?
No, I did active duty for 12, and then I did another 6 in reserve. So
why didn't you do the 20? Why didn't you were so close to your 20? What's wrong?
The legal stuff took over.
Hey, that's noble, man, because most people would,
I had all sorts of officers being like, why? Why are you leaving now? And I was like, if I don't fight for my house now, my property, I'm going to lose it. And what good am I doing here when I'm swearing an oath to the Constitution, fighting for it, and it's not helping? It's not helping at all. I need to get out of the Army, and then I can have my fight for the Constitution.
Yeah, so that's good. So kind of going back to what we were talking about when I asked about the Pledge of Allegiance, is, what is what are the platforms that we follow? So like I said, an oath to something. I don't care if it's Satan or the Constitution or God, or Buddha, but an oath.
Right.
You swear, you put your hand on the Quran or the Bible, or you bow down before Buddha and you swear an oath. I'm all for that. One thing they don't teach us in school, we don't hear it immediately, not the social contract, which is an illusion of society, but a social compact, which is, I don't know, what would you say are you familiar with the social compact?
Yeah, so social compact, from what I've researched, I believe this is going to be Rousseau, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. His philosophy, and it's more of, you have multiple contracts when it comes to being a citizen, so state government, federal government, what are you doing for society? Maybe you have a contract with your religion. They got their own laws too, So you have multiple contracts together, and that's what creates a compact.
Good. Okay, good. I wanted to, and it's ironic, almost nobody hears of that term. You hear the social contract,
Right.
you know, and I don't know if you've done the Mark Stevens thing, and you've probably spoken to authorities, even just random kind of loose conversations in sort of I've had so many people that are in supposed positions of authority to me, and they told me, you know, when they lost, all I do, like Mark Steve, you know, I use the Socratic method, and I just ask questions like, what evidence do you have? And you know, when they when they don't have answers, I've had this thrown at me like, well, Mr. Buchene, if you want to be a member of society, then you. And I said,
well, go with the flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like their last resort. I mean, I've had judges walk off the bench. I don't have as much experience as some people in the Mark Stevens. I've had a few, and they've walked off the bench, made a judgment without me. You know, boom. If you want to be a member of society, I'm judging this, and they've walked off the bench. So I'm not sure if I won or lost, and they reduced it down to a court fee, no whatever, and I was happy with that, man, because it's exhausting.
Yeah.
The one criticism I have of the Mark Stevens circle is I think it leads people into a sort of a negative ego, where I see a lot of people, they gain the knowledge and it goes to their, no pun intended, goes to their head. And it's almost as if people want to have confrontations with the police and end up in court. And I mean, I'm nauseated. Every time I walk.
A lot of people are just looking for like a loophole to where I just need something that fixes this problem right now. What do I got to do? You know, it's like you need to understand everything broadly, and then you can fix all of your problems on your own. You know, so that's what I'm trying to get that into the school system here with all the kids. Start learning slowly, gain it up, and then by the time you're graduating high school, you'll already know how to do courtroom procedures. You'll understand the laws that you're supposed to abide to, or that you have chosen to be contracted with, you know, because that's what citizenship is. There's so much, man. There's so much.
Let me ask you.
Myself.
Let me ask you. So that's one thing that when I was listening to you on Crow 777, you know, for anybody listening, Derek, I'm going to break this down. Basically, Derek has positioned himself into a platform, a position that he is not a Michigan resident, but he is, and listen, I don't want to hear criticisms. I mean, I have questions about it, but we'll get to that. So he's positioned himself that he's not a resident of Michigan, but he's okay as a U.S. citizen. You know, personally, I don't like the term citizen. This is why I didn't get into the sovereign citizen. To me, that like sovereign, I don't even know. I mean, I don't want to be a sovereign either.
All right.
To me, a sovereign is a cop, a judge, a queen, or a king, or and then citizen. You know, like I'm a man, and I want to be pretty much left alone unless I've effed up and violated a real law.
Right.
Other than that, so go into that a little. Like, so basically we know, you know, he's not a Michigan resident because he doesn't want the codes to his house, you know, code enforcers coming along and permits. And he's also, for anybody listening, he's done the driver's license thing. There's plenty of information on that about you don't need a driver's license, right to travel, Constitution, blah, blah, blah. But why are you okay with U.S. citizen?
Yeah, so what I try to explain, I did on Crow 777 was a state is not a physical place. It's just a government. So a state of Michigan is the government of Michigan. So when you say you live in the state of Michigan, you're saying you live in the government of Michigan or a legal residency. So that's
actually one thing. Place. One thing I've done in court is when they've said the county of or the state of, I've asked for a definition of. I said, what do you mean by the state of New York? Or
Right.
I said, do you mean the physical land, people, birds, bees, trees, grass? Or do you mean a for-profit corporation? Boom! Oh, that will define.
And one thing I didn't mention on Crow is, let's say you get in a car accident or for some reason the police are involved in whatever's going on. They got to fill out the report, and they're going to want to know the township, the county, and the state. They have to put those on the paper. It doesn't matter if they just put your mailing address. That's not good enough. It has to happen in a legal jurisdiction. So that's got to be township, which belongs to the county, and the county belongs to the state. So they have to mention those on the paperwork. That's what puts whatever action happened into the state.
Oh, I'm going to offer you some piece of information relating to that. Let me just get the name. I don't have a lot of information on it, but let me. I think it's called a NAC number, and I'm not sure. Have you heard NAC number?
I'm not too sure.
So hold on, let me look. Yeah, NAC. Oh man, I think it's National Address Code. So the post office, there's a group out there called the Government of the United States of America. Anybody listening or yourself, they're doing their thing. A lot of stuff that's similar to what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's dealing with the post office and the post office general and post.
That's interesting. The postmaster general, you don't hear about that person.
They've
They're
reoccupied
the
it.
highest paid person in the federal government, and it's a lifetime.
But they say, listen, the government of the United States government, which is not United States government of America, was abandoned. I guess it was around the Civil War. But these guys that are a loose group called the Government of the United States of America, a NAC number. Oh God, let me search it real quick. Hold on. It must be. But the address, so I'll say it on air. I don't care. My address is 19 Pinecrest Road, New Hartford, New York. That's a new address format, which is for the corporate. The NAC number is a longitude, latitude address. Because come on, you think about it. I live in 19 Pinecrest Road, New Hartford. These are all fiction. This has nothing to do with real science. It's all made up terms, right? New Hartford. Whereas your NAC number is basically what Google Maps uses.
Yeah.
I don't
quite go that far into it. I've looked into it a bit. The postal address, as far as I've seen, does not give jurisdiction to anybody. Now, there is something that if you mess up commit mail fraud, or even destroy your own mailbox, that's a federal violation. So even if you bought it, you put it in the ground, and you decide you don't want it no more, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah, isn't that funny if you get pissed off and smash that box that you paid for from Lowe's or Home Depot?
Yeah. Still trouble. Yep. And the township will say, we own 8 feet from the street,
That's the other thing.
That's actually not true either, because you're taxing the entire area. So you're claiming ownership over all that. But the mailbox is still here, and the federal government has laws on that. So the federal jurisdiction's everywhere too.
Well, then you go into the thing like eminent domain and all this stuff. Nonsense. So
Yeah.
wait, I bought a piece of property that says it's basically from the road to wherever. But then if I want to landscape or build something, you need a permit. Or you
Right.
can't.
Putting up signs and stuff, they'll make you put permits up for that too.
Right.
So when you tell them, oh, it's your property, why don't you mow it then? They'll be like, oh no, and if you don't take care of it, we'll fine you for that also. And then you start to understand who really owns what,
Well, again, it goes back to we've never. So let me ask you, before we go into more what you're doing, so to be on, to be transparent, we spoke about the definition of property. So I asked you, and you can reiterate or go into more depth. So I brought up the example, like a company called, let's say Walmart, for example, is on one hand, it's a public company when it comes to the financial corporate structure.
Yep.
Setup, right? Straight. It's a public company traded on, you can buy stocks and shares and interest in it. But then when you walk into a actual real, not the NASDAQ number and fiat money, when you walk into a Walmart, then they can start saying, well, you got to have a mask, or you got to have, shoes and a t-shirt, a shirt. And so part of me agrees with that. Like if it is but listen, Walmart is not a human being. It's a corporate entity, a corpse, a dead. It's not a living. There's no, and this is why companies get away with murder, because personally, call me a communist, but I think we need to go back to, you want to form a business, you need a sole proprietorship and or partnership. So when you do some effed up shit, we, the people, can come and say, hey, Derek, you and Eric, you guys are partners. You own this company. You threw sewage into the commons, the water, and you got to answer for it. Well, we have corporations.
Yeah. And they get all this protection, all these laws built just for them, Whatever happened to just individuals suing individuals? Why can't we just handle it ourselves,
Right. Well, I mean, it's too convenient for these corporations. They have no liability when they do something wrong. But then they can claim private property when you're actually on their physical brick and mortar locations and say, oh, you got to wear a mask, or you got to have a vaccine to come in here. You got to show me your papers. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it works out on both sides. So to me, a property owner has to be one, a living man or woman.
Yeah.
And a steward has to be in the state of stewardship. What's your feeling on that?
Are you saying like what is required by the U.S. Constitution?
No, I mean just by definition, what defines you as a property owner?
If you ask the county, there's not much. You just have to be there on the property paying the taxes. They'll call you the owner, but they're not going to treat you like one. But as far as U.S. Constitution goes, the patent office was set up so that you would be the owner, the sole proprietor of that property. And you had the right to say whatever you wanted. And, it would have to take a personal lawsuit against you to prove that some damage was happening. If, let's say you turned in your whole property as just one big sewage dump, like you said, the government could sue you for that, saying, hey, you're causing toxic stuff for our citizens, you need to knock that off, or,
Okay, so for example, let's say I'm a real estate developer. I have a registered company, corporation, so I have no personal liability. I'm not it's set up as a corporation. Mm-hmm. And let's say I buy 6 square blocks in Detroit of dilapidated property. I'm not occupying it. I'm not developing it. I just did it. Am I a does that make me a property owner?
Nope. No, you're just going to be the tenant that's going to get charged and be held responsible for everything in that area.
No, I'm in bed. I'm in bed with the Detroit city, and I'm good with that.
Oh yeah. I guess however you can manage to convince other people is what you'll get out of the law. And that happens with every court experience. It doesn't matter if you're in the right or wrong. How well can you convince others to believe what you're saying? So, if you want to call yourself a property owner, fine. Prove that you have the highest title to that land or that piece of equipment. You have a receipt if you just bought it from the store, or if it's a vehicle, do you have the certificate of title? That is the highest title. You can go manufacturer's certificate of origin, the MSO, but that just states where it came from. I don't think that signifies ownership. And if you think a deed is going to signify you as a property owner, it won't. It's still only going to enter you into a jurisdiction to have to pay taxes and abide by zone ordinances and all the other stuff that's attached.
Let me ask you, because a lot of official documents I receive, I see the term resident. So if my address is blah, 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 am I a resident or am I an occupant, or is it my abode, which is is there anything to that, like a resident of?
So you can have a physical residency and you can have a legal residency, and they could be two different places. While I was in the U.S. Army, I was technically a citizen of the state of Michigan. I had the ID and everything, but I was living in Texas, living in Colorado, or deployed overseas. You know, so I was all over the place. So where your legal residency and where you physically reside are two different things.
So a resident is more a legalese term.
It can be, yeah. Yeah.
It's really more used for legalese and not reality.
Sure. You know, you always got to make sure you understand what context the terms are being used, especially as laws are being drafted and courtroom.
Well, here's the thing, and I don't know if I'm shooting myself in the foot, but, you know, from 2004 to 2016, 2004, I left JFK Airport and did not even come back to the U.S., even for a visit, until 16. Europe, South America, all over Asia. And a little known fact that the United States government, from my knowledge, I could be wrong, but I'm almost certain not, the U.S. government is the only country on earth that somehow believes that U.S., and this is why the whole U.S. citizens are somehow obliged to file income tax, even though you're not residing, living, using the services whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, I didn't.
Deployed. I was in a country and I didn't have to pay income tax while I was deployed over there. But I still have to file it when I come home, you know? Like, you know, that's I don't know. That's how they keep the business rolling, I guess.
See, that's the whole thing about the U.S. citizen thing. Because it says if you have a passport. See, the reason I can't do and like the whole driver's license thing, I can't do that because I'm a truck driver. So you tell me how I can be a truck driver without a license. And I'm sure there's a way, but it would be a full-time job to just get a job doing it.
Yeah, you'd have to start your own business, you know, under your own name, under your own laws, somehow find a way where you can contract that either with the local government or, you know, whoever to be like, hey, I'm not registering any of my stuff to you, but I'm very compliant with your rules, you know, just so we're not going to have any safety hazards or anything.
But the whole system is set up like, you know, if you're a trucker, you know, your client is going to want your bond, your insurance, you know, because
and insurance is expensive too.
Yeah, and you know, by the way, if anybody doesn't know about trucking, the old days of Smokey and the Bandit for people that are from my generation, and you know, just that freedom, they've killed that. You're under DOT, it's all electronic logs, it's all GPS. Yeah. Basically, I work for the DOT.
Yeah.
And I accept that. I mean, that's what and you know what? I knew that. Like, I don't work for Swift. I work for the DOT.
Right. Yeah, and did you know that a lot of the states, some of the biggest chunk of their funding they get is from the DOT also. And also DHS, Department of Human Services, they take another big chunk. So your CPS and all that they have a financial incentive to implement themselves into your lives so that the state can get funding. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a mess. I mean, yeah. So, and the other thing with the passport, you know, my wife is Chinese. We have a home in China. I like going to Cambodia. I want to retire. So, the idea of a passport, I've gone through all the world passport stuff, been around there for decades. I've researched it. I'm sure you've looked at it. I'd love to not have a U.S. passport, but how am I going to get into China? They want to see a passport. So it's like you're going to fight. You're not only going to fight the U.S. government, you're going to have to fight the Kingdom of Cambodia, the Kingdom of Thailand. It's nonstop. So
yeah, that's rough.
So I need a passport personally. I know if there's a lot of people out there. If you're rural based, if you never want to travel the world, you don't want to travel around the country. You don't. From what I take, you don't travel much because you're not using a license. I mean, if you were to drive to New York, I'm sure it would be. Do you have license plates?
I drive around, but I don't. I haven't been pulled over yet. Right now,
So you don't have license plates?
Vehicle. I got a family member's vehicle right now that I use because I told her, "Hey, let me get through this court process first, and then I'll go back to using my truck that has no plates on it. Then I can get pulled over. Then I can have that court battle, and then I'll get the."
Yeah, I mean, anybody that wants to do that, it is doable, but you have to accept the reality that, from my perspective, you have to live in a rural area. Only because you have less police to sort of communicate who and what you're about. So, hopefully your local sheriff and your town police. I mean, you can't do this if you live in the New York metro area, driving between New Jersey or if you're driving across the country. So what you're doing, I wish more people would do it, but I think for now, you can only do it if you're very local.
Yeah, and I don't want people to have to do that either, but I do think it's pretty ridiculous that people even have to get that to drive a piece of property that they own. I get the driver's training, I get getting a certificate from that, but besides that, if you get in a car wreck, you could sue that person, say, were you actually trained in a driving school? And if they say no, then I got you on all sorts of stuff now. You're negligent, you're causing problems for society, But if it was just an accident and you had your training and all that, you had a certificate from it, then an accident's an accident,
Well,
it's so the small.
It's pretty evident to me that the DMV or whatever it's called in your, what do you call it in
we have a Secretary of State.
So you don't go to a DMV. Okay. Most states, from what I know, it's a DMV. Right. So it's pretty evident to me that the DMV or the state is not about safety on the road, because no offense to old people, but they keep giving licenses to grannies that they should not be on the road.
Right.
Sorry, Granny, but I mean, so it's about.
Yeah, big business. The states, I think the state of Michigan makes, I don't know if it's in the billion range. Mm-hmm. It's gotta be. I want to say at least 5 to 10 billion.
I mean, between driver's license renewals, between getting a slice of the pie from driver's education for certified providers, between license plates, which, New York State, Cuomo keeps, now we need new license plates because, I don't know, the other ones, they put stickers on them and they wore off and it was getting
right. Yeah.
So now we got to go back to the old acrylic painted. And by the way, all made in prison.
Oh, yeah. Cheap labor.
For pennies on the freaking dollar.
Yeah. But you paid over $100 for it.
I mean, listen, personally, I don't know what to say about, I do think that it's a good idea that if people are going to drive vehicles, which can essentially be a weapon, and, people will, go off the road, run over your garden, whatever, maybe hit your mail. There should be some sort of attack. I'd like to know who drove through my freaking garden. And so I don't think it's a good idea that people can just drive around vehicles with no identification.
And I've had, driver's training, and I've been licensed for many years. I can even drive big military equipment if I needed to, Abrams tanks, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, you were a tank. You were in the tanker division, right?
Tank mechanic. Yeah, I was that for the first 12 years, and then the final 6 just a truck driver. So I was still driving big equipment. But you know, I get that people still need to learn how to drive. They need to understand the rules of the road just so we're not crashing into each other. Because I've been in countries where there's none of that, and it's a mess. It's absolutely
and that's proof positive that actually things like driving should go back to parenting, common sense.
Yeah. Hell, put it in the school system, you know? Just make it another class I got to graduate from.
Yeah. But it should be, you know, part of upbringing and parenting. And
because there's a lot of people that still get driver's licenses without doing any driving school, you know?
Like I said, old people, man, they've been just grandfathered in. They keep giving the driver's license to granny, and let's face it, we've all been behind people that shouldn't. No offense to the elderly, but man,
yeah, it's bad.
It's how you can call it. It's about safety,
right? So I don't recommend people doing the route that I did. I went this route so I can have the really big fight. So I can square up against the state of Michigan like I need to and just say, if you think your laws apply to me, show me how I'm tied to your government. You know, what benefit do I get from you? I'm not getting any.
Oh, that's another thing. Yeah. I mean, if you go into Black's Law Dictionary or Mark Stevens, and there's so many things, but the beneficiary is we're not it. In whether you're an employee, a driver, a property man, none of these agreements, we're not the beneficiary.
All right. Yep, that's true. Somebody else is getting all that money.
What do you know about? There's one thing, and other people I've heard people are doing is putting things in a legal, what is it, living trust?
Yeah, that's
or legal living trust.
Yep, I've seen a lot of people doing that with even their houses, their farmlands,
right?
Stuff like that. Oh, my computer's trying to crash on me. I'm gonna close some stuff out.
That's slowing a bit. I'm gonna clear up my memory too. Yeah, so what?
So some people do that in order to limit their liability on stuff. They'll get like a revocable or irrevocable trust. And if you were trying to set up something to where your family can receive your property even while you're still alive, you know, they'll be the beneficiary of something that's going on, then that's a living trust. So while you're alive, you're giving other people legal responsibilities to do things in your namesake. And I actually interviewed a trust attorney and got all sorts of information on that.
Oh yeah. You touched on that towards the end, from what I recall, but I don't think you went into it in deep. So talk about your interviewing with attorneys.
Yes. So the trust guy, I told him, you know, look, I want to set up this $1 million trust for my kids while I'm alive, so that they'll be beneficiaries and all this stuff. What's it going to take? And he had told me that that he can set it up, and for the property, as far as the house or anything like that, that you use a deed to transfer that property in and out of a trust. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of correlations between what we think we do as home ownership and what the county is making us do. It's the same way. It's almost like we're setting up a trust with the local county, and they're the beneficiary.
Well, it's interesting you just said that we're called homeowners, which you see a lot in marketing and other stuff.
Right.
And if you notice, when they're selling you insurance policies, they don't call us property owners now, do they? They call us homeowners. Because I guess the system really doesn't care about your physical structure. It's the property, right?
Yep.
Why do they always call us home? You know, it's called homeowners insurance. Why isn't it property insurance?
Yeah, or what's their definition of a homeowner, you know?
Yeah, what's the difference between a property owner? Like they never call us property owners, actually, do they?
No, you know, or that you have full title. You'll never hear that.
Mm. Homeowners.
Yeah. So, what's a home? Could be a cardboard box on the street, right? That's your home.
I would assume so. I mean, unfortunately, that is the reality for some people.
They're not gonna.
Oh, I think I lost you. You there? Hello, hello. Shit, I guess I gotta pause this.
Attach your cardboard box. So there you go. Morning. You got me?
Yeah, you're there. I'm getting a red bar signal when you're.
Yeah, I got connections unstable.
Oh, that's getting better now. Now it's white.
Good.
Yeah. Homeowners insurance. Nothing about property.
Nope. And if you want, I can talk about stuff that I found out this morning.
Yeah. Go ahead. So what's new? Yeah, what's new on the table.
So I had seen that the state of Michigan is they already enacted a new law saying that there's going to be an administrative tribunal for property tax appeals, right? And I looked into what an administrative hearing is, and this is basically just another court procedure where you don't have any constitutional rights. So they're not going to summon you to court. They're not going to let you have a jury or put any motions in. Any of those constitutional protections that you would have normally had in a court procedure.
You said
They're giving themselves another tool to screw you over.
So you said tribunal, because when I hear that word, I just think military martial. I mean, tribunal sounds very military. What is it? MC military. What's the military?
CMJ?
Yes, yeah, I know. It's been a while. It sounds very military.
Tribunal just means it's like a three-party system. So, judge, jury, and prosecutor or whatever. The parties, I should say. Parties, jury, and judge is basically a tribunal.
So this is a recent, so you mean post or current with the COVID thing? This is not something, this is congruent with what's going on.
No, this is something that's looks like it's gonna take place for good or up here. They just are trying to find new tools they can use to keep you away from your rights and act like they're out to help you. It's pretty disgusting what they do. These administrative hearings are just, they're totally unconstitutional. And so I found
Wait. By definition, is that in fact not a conspiracy, which is, as you and I know, but anybody who doesn't know, two or more people meeting in behind closed doors, which sounds like you're describing, to do something unlawful.
Yeah, it's a conspiracy against your civil rights. So, and then I've this guy's name. He has got some of the biggest law accolades I've ever seen. His name is Philip Hamburger. Kind of weird, but that's his real name apparently. He was a professor at the professor of law at the Columbia Law School. He's authored multiple books. He has just huge accolades. And he was basically talking all about how this administrative court procedure is not constitutional and it needs to get, they're using it too much. So let's say you have your driver's license, right? You get in a car accident or you get a ticket. You don't have a jury for that. You know, you don't really have a lawyer for that so much. So your rights are very limited. It's more of an administrative hearing. And I would kind of liken this to family court, you know, divorce court. I don't see juries really involved with those either. And I've been through that process. I've been through drug court. I've been through criminal court. I've been through civil court. I mean, everything just about. And now foreclosure.
You know, I've delved into family court, and personally, I haven't been directly affected, but I know so many people that have, especially men. Sorry to sound like a misogynist, but family court is one of the most nauseating. What they do to human beings, especially men, and then subsequently children, is beyond the pale of you know, I don't mind traffic court and stuff. I mean, it's a couple $100 if you don't know what you're doing, but what they do in family court is.
Yeah, man. They, like, here we have an agency called Friend of Court, which, you know, isn't government, but the government lets them dictate the rules for what goes on in family court. It's pretty sad. It just seems like they're more provoked to get big child custody payment, or, you know, child payment, stuff like that, so that they can, you know, rake that in. I'm sure they're trimming off the top what they want and providing their services for the court, you know?
Yeah.
Luckily for my ex-wife, I'm the one that actually won custody, but I told them, so you're not going to go through that custody place. I'll handle it my own.
The children behind you are from a partnership with a woman that you don't live with right now,
right?
Anymore.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Do they have back in 2012? Do
they have a stepmother or whatever you stepmother? I don't even like the. So you're married again, or?
No, not yet. I'm single.
You're single.
Yeah.
Wow, man! A white man got custody of his children.
Mark it down on the calendar.
Yeah, man, it's tough. I mean, my wife and I, you know, not only are we separated by half a globe. Don't shoot me for using that term, but that's a whole other thing. But just ideologically, but I knew this was going to be my future. This is why I got married in a foreign land with a foreign woman, because I knew if I had been married and started a family in this country, I would have ended up.
Oh yeah, the cards are stacked against you, you know, and we've lost a lot of culture here in America. It's pretty bad. You know, you go to foreign countries, they still have a lot there. There's a lot of morality, a lot of purpose. And
it's disappearing.
We're all just trying to become American. That's it.
It's disappearing. You know, I think I mentioned it to you, and I would love to be on somebody's show about this. Nobody's taken advantage of it. But my 12 years outside of America, mostly based in Shanghai, China, I watched China change and develop just before, like literally like a movie, like nanotechnology, buildings going up like boom.
Wow.
The globalist agenda focusing on China and also Asia in general. I mean, ASEAN, Southeast Asia, Singapore, Bangkok. but I watched them import all the bad things of American culture, the consumerism, the branding, the Starbucks, the KFC.
Right.
And then from a distance, I watched America become less and less free, more and more dumbed down, more and more collectivist, socialist. I call it collectivism. You know, I don't even like to use communist or, you know, collectivism. If you look at it from my perspective, nothing good results in that.
Right.
I mean, you could say, you know, like you were in the military, but, you know, like, especially I was in the Marines, you were in the Army, Army's bigger. But man, the Army is a big institution, a big monster. And if you're fortunate enough to be in the right location in the military with the right men, and if you're the right leader or you're the right leader, then you've got something good. But generally, U.S. Marine Corps is the U.S. Army. I mean, as an entity of whole, man, it's a big animal. You can't say that the Army is good.
Right.
I mean, would you agree with that or not? I mean, collectivism.
Oh, absolutely. It's just like any other organization, you know. Once it gets too big, it just starts working like. I'll tell you this: the rules and stuff are drafted up well. It's designed well, but the way it executes is piss poor. You know what I'm saying? Like most government agencies, you know, it doesn't hold people to account like it needs to. So, you know, you got the same problems as any other corporation.
I see it on a daily basis with what I do as a truck driver on the Walmart account.
Yeah.
So I'm not a fan of Walmart. Walmart's policy at the head is to have managers that are dictators, not leaders by example. Now that said, there's a handful of Walmarts that me and everybody else hates going to because it's a drama. They're poorly managed.
Right.
But there are exceptions where you can see it's managed well, but not from corporate, because Walmart's policy is to be a dictator. But some human beings that are good leaders have good Walmarts. And then you go to one and it's just, you know, they follow the corporate, and that's what it is.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just, you know, I see that, you know, these kind of managers, they hire these stupid ass lazy people because the manager is a stupid ass lazy piece of shit. But then you've got those exceptions to the rule, and it's the same with the military. Exactly the same. You know, you got to put, you know, you got a small platoon. You can't even say a battalion. Battalion too big, but you got a platoon of X amount of guys.
Yep.
And that's a good platoon if they have a leader.
Right. And you got to stay in the guys' asses. I mean, they'll slack off just like any other employee will, you know. They'll try to get away with as much as they can. They go hide in a corner and sleep if you let them. So you gotta constantly be on them. Gotta make sure they're doing good. Make them constantly want to prove themselves to be better. You know, make it competitive, and there's a lot to it.
Yeah, and that's not the way it was a few generations ago, man. It was, you know, we had a work ethic, and I still think there's some of that here in America. I've had people tell me, I've had foreigners like Eric, you know, like people from Holland, people I know in Asia. They said, Eric, you are one of the last real Americans. And this is the problem I have. Like, to me, okay, this is what I want to ask you. What's the difference between is there a difference, and what is it between an American, or in loose term, and a U.S. citizen, you know, New York resident? What's an American what are you about? I'm guessing you're about 35, mid
7.
Okay, so I was going to say mid-late 30s. So I'm coming up on 50. So I'm not old enough to be your dad. Well,
Nah, man, my dad passed away at 64. Like, I don't know.
God bless him. He got out in time, man. Jesus.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what's an American? You know, so this is a lot of questions.
I would say American is identified by culture and language more, but you know, Native American is American too. I consider Mexicans are Americans too. Canadians are Americans.
Hey, you go down to Argentina, not Mexico, but Argentina, they have their own culture, and they're adamant about we're American too, and by definition they are. I mean, Canadians are American, I guess. But anyway, that's
by location anyways. I mean, that's why it should also be by language. Americans typically use English. Holidays can determine, if you're American or not. Stuff like that. But then again, you could be a Jewish American, not celebrate.
Okay, but what makes us, putting aside Africa and Asia, we're basically a European. What makes us different as Americans who mostly have a connection, most of us have a connection to Europe? So what makes us different as American, whether you're Polish, Italian, Irish, what makes America different from, there's a lot of similarities, obviously, but what makes us different?
As a person, I don't know. Maybe we need to talk to some more foreigners.
Well, see, I've had it.
I think that we're all ignorant, right? We're all stuck up. We're
not the smart ones. Not the smart ones. Most Europeans I know that are traveled, that have been living in Asia as expats for a lot of time. I hate to burst people's bubble, but the open-minded Europeans, I'm not talking about the ones that have been stuck there and buying into all this crap. Most people still actually, they may just disagree with U.S. foreign policy, which I'm pretty much on board, but they still like the idea of America, as do I. But what I'm asking you is, what sets us so-called white Americans separate from white Europeans?
I don't know. Are we talking by law or just what I think?
Ideology speaking, culturally.
Ideology. I think we have maybe higher expectations than a lot of other countries as far as what we think we should deserve as luxuries compared to a lot of Europeans and a lot of other countries too. We've kind of
material.
Yeah, we're definitely more materialistic than a lot of other countries.
Yeah, that's not a good thing though.
No.
that's generally, and from my. No, but how about? I don't know. Okay, so I'm gonna. From my perspective, the American
Saudis, I'll give you that.
Well, I would say is that supposedly we're more, or at least we used to be, or should have been, more individuality based, and there's good sides and bad sides to that. I recognize that.
Mm-hmm. And we're also kind of like the trendsetters to the world. So whether it's fashion, music, even us stirring up revolutions over here, that changed a lot of legal systems in other countries and stuff. So we are trendsetters, and but we need to understand that that's a responsibility too. We should also show the world how a country should operate.
Agreed. Unfortunately, we've gone off track on that.
Yep.
I don't know. To me, the America that I was sort of given and weeded out all the crap around it was personal responsibility, not nanny state government. I don't know. I mean, that's what I was presented with, and kind of sorted out as a fundamental thing: personal responsibility,
right,
a work ethic. The idea that you have all these rights that are given by government. No, you have to get up off your ass and work for, you want water. You don't have a right to water. You got to get up and, I don't know, dig a well or go and fetch water.
Right.
I don't know. I think from what I understood that a work ethic and hard labor, blood, sweat, and tears was the way you were an American. You built your own house. You grew your, I don't know. But
Yeah.
it's like maybe that was all a big lie. I don't know, but that's what I interpreted from my upbringing.
Yeah. And, we also got a lot of patriotism over here. So we got, the biggest, most capable military in the world. I don't care about China or Russia. They would not last long enough to fight us, either of those countries.
I don't know if
They are big and powerful, but they won't last.
I'll tell you, the Chinese military, and it's not a joke. It's the Chinese military is so-called big as far as just people in uniform. But let me tell you, the vast majority of Chinese military have never been trained with a live round. I mean, it's
wow.
It's I know. Take that for what you will, but that blew my mind learning that. And I had a lot when I was a teacher there. I had a lot of students that were military government. They've never shot a live round.
That's crazy. And to think too that it sucks that we are deployed so much. I personally went through 5 tours, but that also makes us the most combat capable military in the world because we're constantly at war. We're always ready for the fight, So, and that intimidates a lot of the rest of the world to be like, they're training non-stop. We've barely got a training exercise in the whole year, some of the countries probably say. So that's
why there's a fairly big sentiment in China that, China has a growing budget, whatever you want to, good, bad, whatever your feelings are, regardless. But for such a big military, it seems, people aren't as dumb as, so the U.S., we pay a lot of taxes and of course we need to be at war. If we weren't at war, people were like, well, why do we have such a big military budget? Right? I mean, kind of common sense should kick in. But China has a big military budget and they haven't really had a war. So, I mean, the Chinese military might really need a war, to just,
right.
I hate to say it, but,
Yeah, that's true. And look what that's done for the U.S. too. All the wars they started, it boosted their economy like crazy.
We haven't really been really good at, let's be honest, we haven't been good at winning wars. I mean, since World War II. I mean, what actually happened in the Korean War? I don't know. Kind of Vietnam was I don't know.
We lost a lot, that's for sure. But I'm not justifying any of our wars, to be honest. I don't like war at all. If you're an American and you're so gung ho for war, go. And then see if you want to go again after that.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It is a learning experience, but I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
No, there's no valid moral reason to send a so-called military to a foreign land. There really never is, never was.
Yeah, I wish we could just do like joint training together, fake rounds, whatever. We'll go battle China on some.
So wait, I got a question before I forget. I'm assuming that you've heard of Smedley Butler.
Yeah.
So obviously, I'm gonna also presume that you did not hear of Smedley Butler before you went in the military.
I didn't even hear of him until I started looking into conspiracy theories.
Really? Were you in the military when you heard of Smedley Butler?
I was, yeah.
Wow, didn't that really just hammer your military time?
Yeah, and and I've seen our, from participating in our wars, I've seen resources and stuff that we're using and all that stuff, and I agree with them. It is all corporate driven. We are trying to get a profit out of it, and it's not going back to the soldiers or the families of the soldiers.
No, I know. They've been throwing veterans under the bus pretty much since Vietnam. And you know what? I've been trying to tell police that they were going to be thrown under the bus next.
Yeah.
And
It's happening now.
Bingo. Anyway, so what can I do as just a regular guy where I am, for example, in New York, Oneida County? What can I do? Should I get people together to first educate them, or should I, as an individual, start doing what you're doing? Or I mean, what's the suggestion? So I want to get on board with what you've done the legwork with. And again, I'm acting, actually it's a question. Should I first follow what you've done with tweaks to where I am? Or do you think
I think that we need to set up something to where, for one, all of us guys that are out trying different legal approaches are together, and we can exchange our ideas together, and also, people can contribute in, and we can start getting communities together, let's say locally. For you, you could maybe, I don't know if you wanted to post flyers up or just start getting town hall meetings together. Some people are already doing that. And just let them know, hey, there's a legal team that do this, a bunch of research. There are some lawyers involved, and they're testing the waters on this because they found some really serious problems going on with law and everything like that, So it's hard to get participation in this, and I was blessed to be able to go on Crow 777 and explain to him what I've done.
I know, great.
So,
God bless. Sorry for lack of a better. God bless. Crow. I mean, I don't agree with every show and guest he has on, but it's all good, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't agree with some stuff he talks about either, but I do notice that he hits all around all the bases, So
I'll be honest. The one thing I don't like is the origin stories.
Oh yeah.
Some of them are promoting evolution, and I don't know. I mean,
right.
Again, but that's my personal thing. I'm a Taoist. I live in the moment. This is what I have. This is where I am. Origins. I mean, interesting, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
No bad things against Crow, but I just want to deal with what we have right here and now.
Absolutely. Oh my God, that just helped out tremendously.
What's that?
All I did was minimize OBS, and that.
Oh man, OBS eats up a ton of resources.
Good Lord. Okay, so yeah, and also I try.
Wait. Let's just back up. So
yeah.
I have a lot of knowledge, from the Mark Stevens, and I've been at I understand a lot of what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
but would you suggest to me to get it going? Because I'm a big fan of localization. I can't fix the whole planet. I can't fix the whole country. I can't fix the continent. The best I can do is talk with my neighbors.
Yeah.
Who, believe it or not, are starting to come to my side more and more. There are a lot of veterans, I don't know what you do if it's in Michigan, but almost everybody has the green lights on their front. Is that a thing in
really?
Michigan?
No.
Well, so green light means you're a veteran, and everybody tells me, all my neighbors, like, you were a jarhead, you gotta get the green light. I'm like, dude. And I said, listen, I'm not proud of my service.
Yeah.
I don't listen. I can't take it back. I don't know. Did you serve? What do you think about thank you for your service?
I can't stand it because, when it feels like it's being forced and it got like commercialized and everybody just all of a sudden felt like they need to say it. I joined back in 2002 where we were just starting the big fight, and I would do like hometown recruiting where you're trying to walk around with business cards for the recruiter and try to help enlist people. And I got
2002, you were
nasty looks. And
so you still think, 2002, your generation, you thought we were attacked by people.
Right.
Let's say not thought, you believed that we were attacked by our freedoms and.
Yeah. watched 9/11 on TV. I know it was much more local for you guys, but man, it drove me to the point where I wanted to be part of the fight. And so that's why I joined. And people did not like the military back then. I'm telling you.
Me included, man. I was.
And then after a couple of years of the war, we turned into the biggest heroes everybody's ever known. It's like, no, you don't get to go back on that now.
Yeah,
You know?
the 9/11 narrative was, veterans and troops and first responders heroes. Now with this corona beer bug, it's the nurses who, I'm sorry, if one more dumb ignorant person tells me I got family and dude, it doesn't take much to be a nurse. I'm sorry, whoever I've had.
Right. Yeah, I know.
And what's with obese freaking nurses doing? I don't even know what TikTok is, but it's a thing, I guess. I don't know.
And they're going to tell you how to be healthy. So,
right. And they're obese and they have time on their hands to do coordinated
dance moves and stuff. All that, wasn't it? I just heard that Detroit's one of their arenas or something that they closed off for COVID and turned it into a bunch of medical bunks. Set up for 1,000 patients, and they only have 39. They only have 39 patients in there.
Somebody was going through. I don't know. No, it wasn't Crow. Who the hell did it? Somebody went through all these field hospitals that were built. 0, 0, 0.
Yeah.
300. 0, 0, 0.
Yeah. In the military is just taking the orders too. We'll go set up our medical tents. We'll do whatever, and it's like nobody's showing up.
Oh, look at the prices! So they basically put the Javits Center is a building in New York on the west side. That's so it was already built. It had the HVAC, all that stuff in there, and they put up basically stuff like the Moonlander, like curtain rods with curtains. $20 million. I could have done that for million. I could have gotten some bums off the street, paid me $1 million.
That's crazy. Yeah, I just saw on our local news it said the state got approved for like $2.6 billion for COVID response crap. It's like, we don't need that. We have everything. They're just using this to get federal funding.
Everybody's in. This is the problem. I know I sound like a communist, but how can
we're headed there anyway, so
how can you trust any institution of man, whether it's the church, education, healthcare, government, logistics, supply chain, the major industries, when everything needs to be not only for profit, but they have to show a record of growth.
Right. That's why we need to stop trusting and constantly audit, check their records, hold them to account, and prosecute them.
Okay, so back to the thing. So let's go back. So you want to get us out of property taxes, but so I don't like paying property taxes, but I do see that there's some evidence that, they plow the roads, they maintain.
Sure.
So if we get rid of property tax, how do we keep our road? Some people will say, if they're anarcho-capitalists, they'll say they'll overly simplify it and just privatize it. Well, that doesn't really tell me a lot.
Yeah, I don't like that idea.
There's a point to it, but privatize is just a subjective term. So how do we get whether it's funding or donation of physical resources? Like, I don't know, a truck.
Yeah.
I had a private. I was a trucker. Class B. I had a dump truck. I'm done with my business. I'm 65. Maybe I can give it to my county, for example. I don't know.
So I was talking about this on Crow a little bit, is that we need a direct payment system to where the police department has its own account, right? And we can just pay it as individuals right to them with comment posted, something saying like, you requested this amount to operate for the year. Either you failed last year at your duties, so I'm not going to give you as much. Or, I feel like you probably need a little more help. Let me give you a little more. But there needs to be a cap on that. You could go a little over, but not too much. That way there's a little bit of scale for them to see. And then that way that brings the service, whether it's fire, police, EMS, to be more beholden to the people. Like, wow, why did we not make that much money for funding this year? Look at the comments. We failed the people. They're saying it all in the comments with the payment. You know, and you got to give them a little bit of time gap to be like, you know, I will prepay for the next year fully if you fix this, this, and this kind of deal.
Okay, so a lot of people who, you know, people like me I've essentially been, for lack of a better word, an anarchist my entire life. Apparently it's a disease now, like something, opposition to authority. Now they'll give you Medicaid. They'll medicate kids for that now. But where I live, and we talked about this, so just again recording it. And I don't know how it is. I'm in a rural area of New York. I'm not in a metro. You know, FDNY is a metropolitan, but I'm in central New York.
Yeah.
Our fire departments are, one, voluntarily. So a lot of anarchists have switched to, you know, I'm a voluntarianist, which, okay, whatever, because anarchy was, so go back to voluntariness. So whether you're a peace officer, a warrant server, that's another thing. Let's just go to fire and even roads, like voluntary. And the way you get funded is you ask for donations or you have bake sales and I don't know.
Yeah, they have to do that anyways, right? I know a lot
We do it with the fire.
They walk around with the boots saying, you know, can you please donate into the boot, you know?
Yes.
They shouldn't have to do that if they're getting enough funding. So why not just let us, the people, give them what they need instead of having the lawmakers decide how much they get?
We have examples that it works right now. There's not many left. Like I said, you know, so you in where you are in Michigan, you have your fire departments are voluntarily?
No, I mean they have salary jobs too, but we do have volunteer firefighters also. It's combined.
Yeah, pretty much every fire department. Well, I'm next to Utica, New York, which is a municipality. They have a Utica fire department, but
right.
You know, all the surrounding townships, they're all voluntarily.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'm right next to Lansing, which is our capital city. So they have a very large fire department, and our local township has their own fire department also. I mean,
listen, all respect to first responders, whether you're, you know, EMS or fire.
All day.
Police,
right.
We need to redefine that. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
But
and, you know, I don't have a personal problem with our police here. They're pretty decent that I've experienced with.
So what you mostly town village police, or what's your?
We have county police here.
So sheriff.
Yep, sheriff and all the deputies and all them. But if you cross the road, if you go about 2 streets down, you'll be in Lansing's jurisdiction. You got to deal with the metro police over there. Right. A little bit tougher, you know, say, than your local rural guys.
Well, have you studied the history of policing in America? Because we started out with the sheriff. That's all there was. I mean, back in the old days, it was the sheriff. Then we got the town and I don't know what came first, the state or the town and city, and then federal was definitely last. I mean, that just blew, you know, FBI and that Prohibition era, all the federalization. And
yeah. And did you ever hear about the Pinkertons?
Pinkertons?
Yeah, that's like the beginning of police detectives. So this was like a kind of like a police agency, but I think like the railroads hired them back in the 1800s to help, you know, clear the way so the railroads could be built, or captured runaway slaves, stuff like that.
Yes, and also in big cities like New York, that the metro police. So metro police were invented down south, runaway slaves.
Yeah.
Railroads maybe in the Midwest, and in places like New York and Boston, it was to quell unions and labor. So metro police,
you know where their headquarters
police in general had a bad foundation. Sorry, guys.
Headquarters is here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And it's crazy. They got the triangle one-eye symbolism as their main symbol.
Now, did I ask you or was it somebody else? I think it was the guy yesterday. Did I ask you what your feelings are on as part of remedy as running for sheriff? Or I didn't ask you. No.
And I don't know if you did or not, but I don't want an elected. Well, I'm afraid to get an elected position because I wouldn't fit the system's needs. You know, they'd probably find a way to destroy my family and everything like that if I don't toe the line. So
okay, so
it's a little tough.
From what I garnered from the system is that ideologically speaking, the sheriff is supposed to be the law of the land, constitutional, not commercial law and Holy Roman See and all that. Supposedly, that's what the sheriff is supposed to be, law of the land. But maybe that's the way it used to be, but then that got co-opted, and most of sheriff's fundings comes from the state.
State, yep.
So if you don't toe the line,
it ain't gonna happen, So
what if you run on a platform that a voluntary? Listen, I don't want to fix salary. I don't want to. You give me. I'm going to say what I think we need. It's all transparent. I'm going to be elected sheriff, and I'm going to support natural law of the land, God's law, whatever you want to call it. And
I need more power than that. I don't think the sheriff's going to be strong enough for what I'm trying to do. So I have to be able to overpower judges and sheriff, the whole police department. And the only way to do that is to be the actual owner of the land. I have to be able to remove their jurisdiction in order to create new law.
You mean remove the jurisdiction they never had in the first?
Well, it's to move their jurisdiction to a lower level. So it's still there, but there's things that they won't be able to exercise without my authority. Such as property
that's
tax.
another good thing. Tell me translate jurisdiction and in relation sui juris, if you're familiar with sui. They're tied together.
Sui juris is just having a proceeding with the jury, isn't it? Sui juris?
Sui juris means how to say acting. It's Latin, so sui means thyself, or you're acting in your own. So you're not using a lawyer. You're acting.
Well, I got my blacks.
Your what?
I got my blacks law.
Yeah, okay. Yes, if nobody's, I left my copy in Shanghai. I got to get that back ASAP. It's a big book. That's why I mean, what does that weigh? About 20 pounds? 15?
Here's a thesaurus next to it, right? This is about the size of a dictionary almost.
Yeah.
This is a Black's Law law dictionary. So Surrey juris, we'll do some live stuff. I'm gonna unplug my microphone here.
Assuming sui, or I don't know, some say sui or sway or sui juris. Oh, I brought up another book too. While you're doing that, go ahead, look up sui juris definition of Black's Law. Law.
Doing all that ASMR stuff because it's right by the microphone.
Oh, by the way, remember when we first spoke, I brought up another book called The Law of Nations, and I suggested it was originally in French. Yes, originally published in 1758. Genre, international law. Country, Switzerland, published in 1760 in French. Language, French.
Oh, good old Switzerland.
Well,
they're behind a lot of stuff.
Yeah, again, that's another. But yeah, that's another book I suggest that is buried, and another.
Is it SURI, right? Suri?
SUI.
Oh,
Sui generis.
sui generis.
Yes.
Of its own kind. Is that what you're trying to say? Unique or peculiar.
Mm-hmm.
Term is used in intellectual property law to describe a regime designed to protect rights that fall outside the traditional patent, trademark, copyright, and stuff like that.
Okay, so Wikipedia, I guess. No, where's this coming?
Oh, here's sui juris. It's right below it.
Yep.
Of full age and capacity, or possessing full social and civil rights. That's pretty good.
Yep.
From Roman law, of relating to or involving anyone of any age, male or female, not in the postatus of another, whatever, maybe pretending to be somebody else, and therefore capable of owning property and enjoying private law rights. That's very interesting. You know, I don't think I've ever used that in any of my legal arguments.
Oh, I've been using it for a while. That's what judges hate. And I don't know if I got it from Mark Stevens, but no, I know who I got it from. And I can't remember his name, an Australian guy. So here's the internet definition from definitions.uslegal.com. Sui juris law and legal definition, period. Sui juris is a Latin phrase meaning, quote, in one's own right, unquote. It means now see, this is where I have a problem, a persona. So anyway, see, I would say whatever.
So you know what, I would put this for my court forms. I would put this directly in my appearance form.
Yes, that's no, dude. I mean, this is they don't like this term as well.
Yeah, and then that way establishes your standing in the court. Saying,
yes, and this is what
with full rights.
When they start saying that you need legal counsel, you know, like I don't know if you've had an experience where, like, I suggest you to get legal counsel. I'm not here to you know, no, sir, Your Honor.
When they try to treat you like a ward of the court.
No, I'm acting in sui juris. I'm acting here in sui. I'm up here. You know, you know, special appearance, but I would put that in sui juris special appearance because
I think you combine both those. You're looking really good. You can still say you're a natural man on the land. You know, all that. That's fine. Put everything you want in there. On some of my appearance forms, I told them, you know, how I was a soldier with all the integrity and discipline that goes along with that. You know?
I don't give a shit.
I mean, just something more to have in court to be
funny because
above.
It also says it means, and they put means in. I wonder what they mean. Do they mean by action or do they mean intellectually? Because it says it means, and that's in bold, means. A person who's able to make contracts and sue others or be sued himself. A person sui juris is one who is not bankrupt, mentally incapable, and that's how they treat you when you're, that's how they try to treat you, or a minor.
Okay.
It is the legal capacity to manage one's own affairs. So that's the definitions.uslegal.com.
Okay.
I'm a big fan. That's pretty much how I want to operate.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely need to use the right terminology and get it on record in the court. Otherwise, they'll treat you however they want to treat you.
Oh yeah, they'll start freaking prosecuting from the bench, and it's like
it will not be to your benefit. I'll tell you that.
No.
They want quick justice. That's all they care about.
Hey, is it justice or a freaking fee?
Yeah, it's more like quick, just quick.
Give me your $200. Give me your $80. Whatever the hell.
Yeah, just a quick slap. That's all they want to do. You know, they used to call this back in the day in medieval times, star chamber courts.
That's what I was looking when. That's the word I was trying to think when you said this. What's the thing they just passed that they're trying to put through in Michigan? When you said
the freaking administrative hearings and stuff. Yeah.
No, administrative tribunal. I mean, tribunal to me is like a star chamber.
Star chamber courts. So for your viewers that might not know, that's kind of like where King Henry's time in England, where if they suspect you of making a crime, they would take you up to the tower. And you would just be right there in front of the king and be like, you're guilty of everything. You're going straight to torture. You're going right to here. You don't get to say nothing as a rebuttal. And the reason why they call star chambers, because you can only see out the peak hole of the tower, and all you see is the stars. So
I got to be honest.
When you go in a courtroom, check this out. When you go in a courtroom and you look up, do those lights look like they're organized in a pattern? Or does it look like they're kind of abstract, like stars? Look when you go. I'm telling you. Michigan State Supreme Court building here, that's how it looks. Our local court, it looks like that too.
It's buggy.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I'm glad I helped you. I mean, the sui juris thing, that helped, man. They hate to see that thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to use that.
And most lawyers don't, well, obviously most lawyers will never tell you that, because whether they're on your side or they're the prosecutor,
right,
they're all members of the bar, and if you operate in sui juris, then there's no need for these guys.
Right. A lot of the times they don't like letting attorneys in from out of state too, because they don't have necessarily control over them. They don't get to dictate what that attorney's career is going to be like.
See, what's messed up? I don't have a degree, but I being a foreigner back in the old days of the early 2000s in Asia, I was legal counsel. So I've mergers and acquisitions. So I know contract law, and I'm a big fan of it. I'm perfectly fine with contracts.
Yeah.
So if we don't have that, then kindly get out of my face.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, so as an anarchist, I don't know if you use that term or you really.
With the contract law?
No, but an anarchist just means basically just, if anybody's listening, look at Larkin Rose. I don't know if you've looked at Larkin Rose. Great.
Mark Passio, I think, does stuff on this too.
Mark
right?
Passio, he's hard. I don't know, man. I listen, I like the guy.
Yeah.
But there's something,
Some little off on that one. Yeah. But he does have some good points.
Well, he used to be
but his whole delivery, he's so aggressive, and so he doesn't really provide much for resolution.
Well, one thing I use when people get pissed at me, there's a great quote: "I'm not here to be your friend or liked by you. I'm here to be speaking truth." So when people get, "Oh, Eric, you're so abrasive," good. Sorry, I'm not here to be your friend.
Right. Yeah.
I'm here to speak truth.
Yeah.
But Larkin Rose,
shy away from.
Larkin Rose, an anarchist just does not. What an anarchist is somebody who does not believe in rulers and a slave class. That's all it is.
Right.
It's not that we don't want chaos and burning barrels in the street, and mohawks, and it's like,
right.
That's not anarchy. Anarchists don't believe in rulers and slaves.
Yeah, it's kind of like just a derivative of monarchy. Monarchy means one ruler, so anarchy probably means like everybody rules. I would imagine
we don't have a slave class.
Or
we don't have a ruling
democracy.
Class.
Yeah, or just anarchy is there is no ruler.
Oh, democracy, mob rules. So
yeah, think about how crazy it is. People think that we live in a democracy, and
that's not a good thing.
And it's just everybody's not in control. You're being ruled by a very small percentage.
This is why in my generation, I had the fortunate experience to actually take 1 year of Latin. And when I was 14, I'm thinking, why am I being forced to learn this dead language? Because that's they were getting rid of it, just like they got rid of the trivium. And before social studies, which we have in New York, we had civics. They got rid of civics, and they replaced it with social studies.
Yeah.
They got rid of Latin so that none of us would actually understand what real scientific legal terms even meant.
Yeah.
So democracy, oh, it's a great thing. No, what does democracy mean? Democracy, mob rules.
Mhm.
It's like two
Yeah.
wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner.
Right.
That's democracy.
And that would only work if, the whole society was morally sound and we didn't have criminal type problems or behaviors, But
Well,
when
wait,
we
wait.
have problems, so.
You've basically identified that nothing has changed since the feudal system, which
Oh,
I agree.
it changed, and then they reversed it at the Civil War. It was changed. It was running good. And then and I'll tell you about slavery, because everybody wants to think that Civil War helped cure slavery, and it was such a good thing.
As a child, let me ask you one question.
Yeah.
So the Civil War started, and then 2 years later, the proclamation that came. So shouldn't have it come first?
Yeah, and the Jefferson, like 80 years before all this happened, was already trying to get rid of slavery. He was trying to draft it into Declaration of Independence to get rid of slavery. The other Congress people made him take that out before they accepted it. And then in the 1785 ordinance, that's what helped create the preparation for Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin to start developing governments. That was a 1785 ordinance. He put in there, you need to abolish slavery. That's 1785. That's 80 years before the Civil War.
It's funny, we don't use the term, we haven't heard the term abolish much longer. We say prohibit, ban.
Oh, yeah.
Ban.
Prohibit could be a regulatory use, that's not getting rid of something.
It's interesting that abolish has not been used for generations.
Right.
You hear ban, gun ban, bump stock ban. We hear prohibit, the prohibition. They keep changing the terms. So
yeah.
When was the last time we heard abolish in today's vernacular?
I don't know.
I don't have the answers, but it's just funny that they say abolish, then we get prohibition and the alcohol. Yeah. Now we have now it's just ban vaping, ban gatherings of 10 or more, ban.
Yeah. That's what they do. They keep changing the vocabulary so they can just keep moving the goalposts in their direction.
Anything new about what aside from this? Oh my God, this star chamber that you.
As far as my case, or just stuff that I found out?
Stuff you found out. Oh, wait. Okay, so before you say that, a very important question: how many of us would it take in a given demographics to, for example, just refuse to pay property taxes? Maybe that's another way. We just refuse to. I mean, how many of my neighbors would I need? In your
over 50%, probably. That would be like so when I did my foreclosure hearing, right, there's a list of all the properties that are looking at foreclosure because of tax discrepancies. And there was probably about 1,000 properties on the list for 1 year in one county. And they're all multiple $1,000s, each of these properties. So the entire bill that the county was trying to get was in the millions. It was a couple $1 million. That's what they profit off of when they get people to succumb to paying taxes that are trying to fight the system, or just fall into hard times and end up on that list, and they end up buckling under pressure.
Like the COVID era.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I mean, mine was there. I really don't care. I keep getting threats from the county treasurer.
Is this the house you're in right now, by the way? That you're.
Yeah, this house. Yep.
Okay. Looks like a nice, very 80s looking with the angle. When was it built?
I got my Illuminati light going on back here, if you can
I
tell.
see that. I see some 33 coating. And
It probably is back there, I'm sure. It actually doesn't even look that bad in real life. But
oh, that's the other thing about Crow.
I'm like, oh,
that's the other thing about Crow and many other people, like the threes and the. Okay, guys.
You'll
I know
find it
there's
everywhere.
There's a lot of truth, but there's only 9 numbers or 10 if you want to count 0 as a number. So the odds of a 3 is.
Right.
Come on, guys.
Come on. You can almost always get everything to reduce to 9 in the end somehow, some way, you know.
3 and 1, you add to 4 and you subtract. I mean, come on, dude. There's 9 numbers that exist.
I tell you. But yeah, so it's big money making business, this whole foreclosure thing, you know. And
wait a minute, dude, you have black and white on. That's free.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh man, you're
Sonic all the way.
You're a shill. You're a shill.
Contact me after Crow's show. I had a Freemason contact me, and he wants me to go on his show and talk. I'm like, did you hear what I said about you guys?
So he's actually a self-proclaiming Freemason.
Yeah.
My neighbor's
I
a Freemason.
would go on his show because I don't typically have a problem with Freemasons, but I don't think that you should swear an oath to something like that and still serve in the government in some fashion. I think that's a little bit crooked. So that's something I'll be able to talk to him about. Yeah, I'll share that with you after I have my conversation with him.
Definitely want to.
Yeah. Dude,
I don't know. I mean, depends. A lot of people where I live are part of the Mason Lodge, and my neighbor is he's definitely not a.
Yeah, big guy. I mean, I've got like guys on the street that are Knights of Columbus, some other organizations and stuff like that, you know, and I don't have a problem with people individually like that. I'm more worried about the institutional problem of what.
Well, it's the same like being a so-called calling yourself a Christian, but then actually being a high-ranking member of the Vatican. I mean, it's just not one and the same.
Exactly. Yeah. And where do you think our trust law came from? It came from the Vatican. So did, what else did? Civil law, trust law. Those are 2 huge ones. Both those came from the Roman pontiff.
It's all a mess. I just want to know why, how can I get people, like, why would I want to help support people like you? I'm just, I'm my neighbor across the street over here.
Mm-hmm.
The conspiracy stuff and truth, most people don't get it. So what's the incentive for Joe the plumber to get on board with?
If you know something's wrong, you can sense something's wrong with society and all that, but you don't have the wherewithal to be able to fight that fight, to do all that research into it. This is where we can come in, do the research, find the court cases that support, do the actual legal proceedings and try to fight for the rights back, because
wait, does it mean that I don't have to be forced to pay arbitrary appraising tax properties? Is that basic? No?
Yeah, we don't count for that at all.
Does it mean that I don't, if I want to put in so I live in a ranch, if I want to build a second level, does it mean that I don't need to go to the county and get a permit and pay
permit? That's your property. You get to do with it what you want.
That sounds good to me, because nobody I know likes that shit.
As long as what you do does not hurt somebody else, you can do it. That's law. That's actually the most inherent thing of law.
But you're telling me that if I get on board with you, I don't have to pay it's not actually a bill, it's an offer, and that's not, but anyway, I don't have to pay the bill that's arbitrary, made up by a so-called town or county appraiser.
Right.
And I don't need a permit to put another level on my ranch and.
Yeah, no permits for building anything. It would just, you would only have to deal with if there was something you were doing that would, for whatever reason, devalue your neighbor's property. And
The
then-
economy is pretty bad now, and I want to put some goats on my property, but there's the zoning says, you know, there's a noise ordinance, and maybe my neighbors believe, but I want to put some goats and roosters and chickens on my property. Can I do that?
All right, yeah, absolutely. You know, that has to do with what your neighbors say. If your neighbors are cool with it, you're not causing any type of problem for their health.
Well, they might say that, you know, the roosters wake them up too early, but from my perspective, that's nature. That's, you know, the roosters. No, I'm playing devil's advocate.
I gotcha.
But I told my neighbors, I said, if the economy gets much worse, I'm telling you right now, I'm getting goats. I'm getting roosters.
Chickens, and yeah, they can get loud. Yep. And,
I mean,
you know,
I lived in Thailand for many years, and one thing I loved was, even, you know, in Asia, people don't have this they don't have this space. Asia's, for anybody that's been, it's more compact. Even in rural places, you know, people live close together.
right. Yeah.
To trade and, you know, because they don't put, you know, in Asia, it's changing, but they don't put their old folks in retirement homes.
Right.
They're changing that as well, but, you know, and it's just, it used to be this way in Europe. It used to be the same way in Africa. That's human way.
And you know, that's another big thing that separates America from a lot of the other countries too, I think, is that we have so much government interjection in our lives that the other countries I don't think even realize how bad it is.
But trust me, they're switching Asia into, like I said, all the bad things from America, the West.
Yeah.
Like real estate, if you're a real estate investor in China, an entrepreneur, people have been telling, invest in, you know, old folks home. I said, no, you don't want to do that. Trust me, as an American, keep your traditional, and that's the way it was in Europe too, dude. The old people were,
you know, because I don't want to talk trash about the senior homes, but honestly, all they really seem to do is just numb you and try to slowly get you to your good night's sleep forever.
Yeah.
You know, that's a sad way to go.
And
my dad was in one, and
we're so consumed as if we're still married, which is, you know, you got man and woman, husband, wife, two of you working probably two jobs just to have one kid or two kids. You got your grandma's often bumfuck, sorry, first retirement home for X amount of dollars. Nobody goes to see the old bitch. She's rotting away.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the old bitch, but that's the reality we're living in.
Right. And you know, back in the day,
how do you call that moral?
It's not.
Same.
And back in the day, you used to be able to transfer your property through inheritance to where, you know, dad really did own everything. And he said, when I die, this goes to my son. You know, it was already set up well before he died. That was part of the land patents and all that. That's the states got rid of that.
That should be a given. Like I don't have any of this stuff set up, and I probably should, but if I die, my daughter's in China, she's 12 years old.
Right.
Like if I would have died today, you know, tomorrow driving the truck, God knows what the state would do with this property.
Right. And instead they could tell your
But it
daughter,
should be common sense that it's my wife's and daughter's.
yeah. And the state could tell your daughter too late, oh, it's yours, but, you know, there's so many back taxes on it. It's not even worth taking now, you know, and we'll take care of it for you. We'll do a short sale and somebody else will take it over. And everything you worked your entire life for your kids would just be out the door, you know? So, yeah, we got to start handling these legal problems, man. Our rights are not self-executing. They require people out there on the front lines battling it down.
Self-executing. Yeah, that's actually define that. They're not so you basically, I'm going to say that you need to be diligent and personally responsible to keep your rights.
Yeah.
If you're not, then you're going to get mowed. And you know what? I actually kind of agree with that.
Yeah. Every time you walk in a courtroom, your rights are not just, they're not with you, or they can't do anything until you activate it in court. So you have to make sure.
Part of me thinks that's the way it should be, because
no, You should automatically have them with you, you know?
Okay, no. What I'm saying is that in a perfect world, that's the way it should be. Like I said, going back to property, if you're not a steward and nobody actually look that up in your Black's Law, steward or stewardship.
I'm already in the S's, so this won't take long. I just found Star Chamber. Want to hear this one real quick? An English court having broad civil and criminal jurisdiction at the king's discretion and noted for its service, arbitrary and oppressive procedures, including compulsory self-incrimination, inquisitorial investigation, and abuse of juries.
Wow, that sounds like exactly what we have today.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. I want to know what a steward or steward. I mean, it's funny because it's in naval law. We have a ship's steward.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I want to know what Black's Law says about steward or stewardship.
So, steward, a person appointed to manage the affairs of another, a union official who represents union employees and who oversees the performance of union contracts. So basically someone who's appointed to handle the affairs of someone else.
See, something's missing there because in relation to physical land, a steward is somebody that's actually, for my definition, putting in blood, sweat, equity. Really, it's somebody, a person appointed. Wow, where did I get?
Basically, so like an attorney would be like a steward, someone who's appointed to manage the affairs of another. Is the main definition. So your attorney would be like the steward, and you would be like a ward. You would be something that's so incompetent you can't handle yourself in court.
Okay, that kind of makes sense now because when it comes to physical, real, natural land, a steward is somebody that is in charge of a land, meaning blood, sweat equity. That's my definition. If you're acting as a steward of a land, how can anybody have a higher claim? I'm maintaining the property.
Yeah.
I'm the steward of this property. I don't know. Maybe I don't know where I got that from. Maybe it's something original, whatever.
I told off the county treasurer here and his attorney both. I said, if you want me to pay taxes, have the judge order me to pay the taxes or explain the law that I broke. And they can't. The judge will never order you to pay taxes because that's not their procedure for getting property taxes.
That would be a dictatorship.
It's and they're claiming ownership over everything, you know? I'm telling you, it's a crooked system, brother.
So they won't order you.
Nope.
But they'll
I told them I'll pay them every dime if you can get that judge to write an order to me to pay the taxes. I'll pay them every dime. They can't do it.
Okay. So I don't know. It doesn't matter if you're an anarchist or not. So you're kind of in line with what I say. Let me ask you a question. Somebody who violates a real law, rape, theft.
Criminal stuff, yeah.
Yeah, real criminals.
Yeah.
What would be, in your mind, what would be a process of remedy? So we've got, this is our neighborhood. There's an asshole doing some effed up stuff.
Yeah, so
what would be the process?
Somebody. You could sue somebody personally for anything, really.
Yeah, okay, but suing is a on paper thing. So somebody in our neighborhood is doing something truly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We need some sort of physical force to bring this individual into a realm to answer, to answer for this.
Yeah.
What process, how would that look like? So,
So you don't have to abolish the police system. I'm not trying to do that, but I do highly recommend that all houses in a neighborhood get a little more cognizance of what's going on, between the other houses. Like if I found out my neighbor was running a child prostitution ring next door, I would be pissed off, probably at myself, for knowing that for years I could have done something and I didn't do anything.
Yeah, how it even got established in the first place. Like,
right.
You were negligent.
Yeah.
You're negligent. But we all make mistakes.
We do. But if we just tighten up just a little bit, I know multiple neighbors right directly nearby. I've lived here for so long. They all know me. And, I can go in their houses, knock on, talk to them. I've been in their houses. I know they ain't got none of that shit going on. At least not here.
But it does happen. That's the reality. So, for example,
yeah.
What do you think? Like, I'm not opposed to a lawful warrant.
Mm.
The idea of a warrant. You have a charge against you.
Right.
A real crime.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we need to use force to bring you to address this. I'm not opposed to that.
No, there's no problem with that. And criminal court isn't that bad because they try the person. And when they try you for committing a crime, you get to keep all your U.S. constitutional rights. They come with you into court. Okay? You have the right.
Wait. As a persona, as an actor, or as a man or woman?
As a living person, as a man, woman, however you want to say it.
But a person is a persona.
Well, a person could be a physical human being. It can also be a corporate entity.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem with so-called leftists when they bitch and moan about, well, corporations are persons. Well, yeah, but you don't want to be a person. I personally...
So just make sure that the definitions of terms are defined in your court. Like, hey, when you said person, do you mean me, the physical person, or a corporation of some kind? A non-physical entity?
You mean an actor / persona, or do you mean a man or a woman?
Yeah. You can set the terms right there.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know how much power they have in court. You have a lot of power.
I know. I've had judges vacate the bench without much work. Actually, sui juris was one. They hated, and as soon as you start acting, I didn't do it as far as Mark Stevens. I usually go as far as I talk to the prosecutor in traffic court, and I ask a couple questions, and they say, "Can you just pay the court fee?" I'm like, "Yeah, what is it? Because I don't have the time."
Yeah.
I mean, hey, if you've got the time to argue and do all that, I mean, God bless you, but
I'm telling you, this book right here taught me a lot of stuff, just looking in it. If you don't understand...
Why is that not in public school, by the way?
Right, it should be. We should all get this as citizens, And
the law of nations.
Yeah, right. There's so many different pleas. People don't understand. They think guilty, not guilty, innocent, mental inability to proceed.
Yeah, what's it? Mental inefficient? No, what's it called? Mental capacity or something.
Something like that. But anyways, you have so many more in that. This lists like 2 or 3 pages of definitions of pleas.
You know who read that book? You know what gangster read that book?
Huh.
The crazy Italian guy in New York that walked around like in his pajamas and stuff. Dude, he was
Who's that?
led insanity. I can't remember the guy's name, but it's a famous gangster in New York. He walked around pretending he was crazy.
I was going to say Pacino, but New York, not Pacino,
No.
Capone, but New York would be...
It was part of the gang. I think it was a Gambino.
got Jimmy Hoffa.
No, Jimmy Hoffa was, I remember the Irish. Oh man. No, but but that's when we still had a system that I don't know what we have today.
But dude, one of the pleas in here is called a plea of jurisdiction. So instead of saying you're guilty or you're not guilty, that just sounds like you're saying.
Well, wait. Why do I have to enter a plea in the first? I'm not begging.
Right.
I mean,
that's basically what a plea is you're giving the court authority, right, to hear the case. That's what a plea is. So if you say that I plead innocent, you're basically just saying, I don't feel bad for what I did, but I'm going to give you the authority to find out what the cause is. If you say you're guilty, I feel bad for what I did, and you have the right to enforce your judgment. But if you plead jurisdiction, you are literally telling the court, I'm immediately challenging the jurisdiction of this court. And so that works more broad than your special appearance, because that's personal jurisdiction.
Yeah. Go into personal experience for.
The personal jurisdiction is a
personal appearance. That's kind of sui juris, by the way. I think that's.
So to attack that, to try to get them to prove that the laws apply to you, you need to fill out that appearance form in your defense and write down special appearance on there. I am showing up by special appearance. That way it's black and white. It's going on the record into the court. They can't deny it. They immediately have to address that they have jurisdiction to apply laws to you. If you plea for a plea of jurisdiction, I think there's a special plea form that you can put in. Then they would have to decide whether it's subject matter, territorial, personal jurisdiction, how they'd have to look at the facts that got them into the court right there before your authority was even challenged. So, there's different steps you can take.
Isn't that kind of what the prosecutor and your so-called, let's say, public defender, isn't that what, aren't they acting as, I mean, how are they there?
Yeah, I think every court case you ever go into, you should always make a plea of jurisdiction. And then from there, enter in your appearance as special appearance if you're going to say your laws don't apply to me.
So what do you say to your average neighbor that says, well, we live in a society and we have, what do you say to people like that just think you're an asshole, anarchist, rebel for doing this sort of stuff?
Well, there's people that get very comfortable and just expecting their government to do everything for them. And then there's those of us that test the government and say, all right, I'm going to make sure you're following your rules. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, everything I challenge is not going to work because you did everything right. But if you're doing something wrong, I'm going to find out.
Well, I see judges, and I've seen, I have Amish friends, they'll sit there on with their black dress and they say, oh, you believe the rules and regulations don't apply to you.
Yeah. I've had that too. Oh my God, have I had that.
And they actually say, believe. Yeah, you're right. I don't believe.
Right. I shouldn't have to believe that. To believe is to have, blind faith without evidence. So
did I sign a contract? Did I swear an oath?
Right. Prove to me.
So when we're asking for evidence of, forget jurisdiction, when we're asking for evidence that these rules and regulations apply to me, what would be evidence? Would it be a contract?
Right. So it could be contract or consent.
Right.
So if you just say, well, I'm a citizen of the state of Michigan, I'm like, all right, well, state of Michigan laws apply to you, But if you challenge that and be like, well, I'm not a citizen of the state of Michigan, then they should have to be like, oh, crap. Let's find out where he's actually using the government of Michigan to his benefit. And then we can say, we have jurisdiction over you because You just said that you're using our agencies to your benefit.
Yeah, see, we're kind of screwed because, like, want to have a driver's license. I mean, I know how it works. They have that, but did I consent to that, or is it under? This is another thing, under duress. I mean, the only reason I have a driver's license is because I need an income.
Or did you enter into a false contract because you didn't understand everything behind it, right?
Well,
a real contract's got to be full disclosure. So were you told when I made my deed to this house that I would not get constitutional protection when I challenged the court for property taxes? I was never told that. That right there should cancel out their authority that they can impose laws upon me.
Yeah, so back to what being an anarchist means. It's not what Trump's PR, and this is something I've noticed very, I'm not a Trump hater, but I'm also not a QAnon. And I'm still torn. I don't know if Trump is playing 3D chess. Again, I don't vote, so objectively speaking, I'm not a Trump hater. Part of me says Trump does know what's going on, but when I hear his press secretary with these riots constantly saying anarchist, something, it's
right. And they're never getting to the root cause, right? Like, who's paying for these protesters? All this stuff. Don't tell me like this isn't contrived some sort of way.
Well, who's giving the free food in this? And listen, part of me supports what's going on in Washington.
I have no problem with protests. I don't at all.
You know what's going on with now they have a autonomous zone in Seattle.
I only heard a whisper of it. I didn't look into it yet.
It appears to be real. I haven't been there personally, so I can only go on what's online.
Yeah. Huh.
I guess it's mostly Antifa. Okay, listen, my mother asked me about this stuff because she listens to this Dan Bongino kind of patriot stuff, and she goes back between anarchy. Listen, I'm not there, and I don't know. Part of me says an autonomous zone, getting out the police, that sounds good. But I'm not there, and I don't know what's going on. But when I see that they have free food, where's the food coming from?
Right. Oh yeah, they're sponsored for sure.
Well, it's an urban area.
Yeah.
So you need a supply chain.
Yep.
It's not, if this was happening on a couple neighboring farms in the Midwest, that would be more real to me.
Well, yeah, they wouldn't make it too far if they tried to do it.
Because the food is coming from.
Yeah.
But how do you live in an urban area, an autonomous zone, and you're giving out free food to these? No, there's resources behind that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm totally behind that. And that'll stress the question of when is martial law okay? When is it not? Who is it going to apply to? Because we shouldn't have people who are getting paid to do this stuff punishing the rest of us in their wake. That's ridiculous.
So if we don't have a federal court constitutional platform anymore, what would you say is the next?
Well, we do have a federal court constitutional platform. That's all we have left, I would say.
Are the courts, are they opening up anywhere?
They are. I heard my court's reopened, so I'm just waiting to get my turn in line to get heard. So, waiting for them to get caught up. But either way, because of COVID and all that stuff, they postponed the foreclosure of my property because of it. So I'm in the safe zone right now. Just waiting for federal to get off their butts, start doing the right thing.
I don't know. Personally, I look at the history of so-called revolutions, and the only thing it's they invented the French Revolution. I'm 100% with you. I look at, from my perspective, if you look at it as a package, nothing has changed in human history since the feudal. Nothing has changed.
Right.
Show me evidence to the contrary.
You know what's even worse? That when we came off of living under a king or queen, those kings and queens were held to what was called the rule of law. And that term has been misconstrued over the years. Rule of law originally meant it doesn't matter who wrote the law or who's the power behind it, the law applies to everybody. Whether it's the king, the lawmaker, everybody. That was one thing that came about with
Personally, there's been people I've spoken with that said it would be better to live under a noble monarchy as opposed to socialist, communist, democracy.
Right.
And
or what kind of morality does our government have? What kind of religion does it fall under? You know, there's nothing. Yeah, exactly. So they don't care about human life. They don't give a shit. It's a money-making corporation.
Neither does the People's, by the way, hate to piss off you patriots, the People's Republic of China. Neither does the Democratic. So if you need evidence that democracy, republics are nonsense, and I know it's going to piss off the patriots, China's a republic.
Yeah. Congo's a republic.
So what does that mean, actually?
I don't know.
Absolutely.
Well, same thing, different label, right?
I don't know. I don't have the answer. I'm asking the question.
I've been comparing Russia's property rights to our property rights. I'm going to tell you what, they look about the same. And that's pretty sad.
Was it you that said you talked to a real estate agent from Russia? Somebody I was speaking to.
I did have that on, I looked up their websites, real estate agents from Russia, and they're explaining rules to acquire real estate in Russia and what it would take and all that, and how Russia, the government itself tells the people, you can have your house, but the land is ours, and you're going to rent that from us.
That's what I said. Wait, and that goes back to homeowners insurance, which we all have.
Yeah.
But we don't have any offers from these insurance companies for property. Show me one insurance company that has property owners insurance, please. Show me anybody.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm missing something, but show me one insurance company that has property owners insurance.
Yeah, they probably don't even care if you live in a sewer. You know, they would still insure you.
Well, they will. 50 cents a month or something.
Sure.
No, but it's right there in front of your face. There's no property insurance. Homeowners.
Yeah. And if you do file a claim, the insurance company kind of steps in and takes ownership over what you have. Gets to make decisions for you. So that's very tricky business too.
Oh, we got to hold on. Give me 1 sec. I got to pause a second again. So let me ask you, as somebody who doesn't have a driver, you there? He took a pause.
All right, see. Yeah, hold on just a second, man. Let me
Go ahead.
All right, what's your question?
So as somebody who does not have a driver's license, I'm assuming you don't have a registered vehicle, and down the line you essentially cannot have auto insurance. Because to get auto
you
insurance,
can still have auto insurance. They don't require registration. It's
But
the
you
other
need
way
a license.
around. You can't register without insurance.
right.
Yep.
So there are certain anarcho free market capitalists, anarcho capitalists, which is another play in words, in my opinion.
Sure.
Anarcho. How can you be an anarcho? I'm sorry, capitalist. Oh my God, I'm a communist because I'm talking against capitalism. See, they get you everywhere.
Look out. I had a couple of soldiers in my unit that, well, just one in particular that kind of combated me on some of my talks. And he said, because I told my whole group that I was giving a class to, like, I think, in my own opinion, that society needs to have a cap on capitalism. You should be able to have maybe in America, $1 million worth of stuff. You can survive on that just fine. Between a house, vehicles, whatever else you want to have. $1 million at any given time. That's it, right? And he was so pissed off to think that somebody could tell him he could not make as much as he wanted. That
I'm sorry to burst their bubble, but I'm going to call foul on the narrative that Tom Cruise makes 15. I think they sign non-disclosure. I don't believe for a second that these sports stars and Hollywood celebrities actually get paid what the media says. I think that's part of because, dude,
could be.
But think about it. When people say, how could they keep a conspiracy? Oh my God. Non-disclosure agreements.
Yeah.
If you're in the military, UCMGA, if you say anything, they can throw you in fucking Leavenworth.
Yeah.
We
have our own public affairs for that too.
Right. So really thinking about it, I mean, I've earned quite a bit of money in my life, more money than I needed. And I had ecstasy parties and, when I was a degenerate DJ, been there. There's no way that any human being needs tens of $1 million for 6 months of work. And nobody on earth can spend that.
Right. And that's if you're living to just accrue as much property as possible, you're trying to act like a king yourself. You're just creating another source of corruption, basically, You should find out what you need and understand that materials should not be what makes you happy, but it should be good enough to make you comfortable living in today's society. To raise a family, be able to pass it on to them. They're going to have to deal with more than I had to deal with. It's only getting worse. So,
what, as human beings, and you didn't talk, simplistically speaking, what should human beings be devoting most of their energy and resources, whether it's money, time?
I think.
What should we be devoting most of us are working 60, 70, 80 hours a week for a corporation.
Yeah. Right.
What do you think human nature, what should we be doing most of our?
I think we need to focus more on spending time with each other, honestly. The more we work, the more we separate from each other, be it family, be it friends. I can't even get friends to come over and hang out. Maybe once a month I'll get lucky. It sucks. Growing up, it was every day, every other day, dealing with the friends, having a good time. But now it seems to be tearing us apart socially. And that's kind of ruining our psyche, our mentality of what to appreciate in life. Well, my friends aren't here. My family's not here. I need property to make me happy now, So we need to work less, learn to pool our resources together, spend more time with each other.
what if I were to suggest that the vast majority of our time, energy, resources, whatever you want to call it, resources, money, gold, skills, should the vast majority not be in our home or homestead, maybe is a better term, our family, our neighbors, and maybe 4 hours a day for the so-called greater socialist good, max 4 hours a day?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that, I mean, I've researched a lot, and there seems to be a consensus number that about 4 hours a day for the greater good, but the vast majority should be personal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
I mean, dude, maintaining my house is almost a full-time job. Raising a family, and yet you were supposed to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week?
Right, yeah. And I'm a single dad with 3 kids in the house. I mean, it is a full-time job. It's.
You sound like a bitch. You sound like you got a vagina now.
I know. I'm all tensed up now, okay?
But that's good. No, what I'm saying is, like, homeschooling, maintaining a home.
Yeah.
Stewardship. Again, I go back to the word being a steward.
Yeah. And on top of all this, learning law and trying to implement it to help others. So
doesn't it nauseate you that you have to actually invest so much energy into?
Let me tell you what, if you've ever read law like this, if you've ever had to read through these laws, it sounds like they're written by a 3-year-old. They got double negatives, they're run-on sentences. It's almost purposely written to aggravate you so you don't understand it. It's horrible. I could understand the Bible easier than this stuff,
Yeah, and you think that's not with intent?
I'm sure it is, just like contracts, right? Make them huge. Make them stuff hidden in there.
Well, look at Facebook and YouTube and Apple and Google and the TOS. You know what? If I started a company, I want to do consulting for companies. You know what? You're a for-profit corporation. Your TOS should be basically one paragraph.
Yeah.
Do not advocate violence, theft, or property. Hate speech doesn't exist.
Right.
Really, a TOS should be don't murder people, don't advocate. That's it.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a porn site, which I'm not a fan of, just no porn on my platform. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Why do we have to have these TOSs that are?
Yeah, they're more concerned about themselves than their actual consumers,
Corporate boardroom America is some of the dumbest, most dumbed down people with degrees that I've.
Yeah, it's bad, but that's the trick. So big laws drafted, confusing, using words from a Latin language that we don't use anymore, and dictionaries that you got to buy online because you can't find them in stores. You know what I'm saying? And then you're not being taught in school how to exercise any of this stuff. You got
Black's Law Dictionary. Can you find that in Barnes and Noble?
I don't know if Barnes and Noble has. I know Amazon does. That's where I got mine. But
I would guarantee that a brick and mortar. Is Barnes and Noble open now?
I don't know.
Or do you have to social distance?
This one right here, this dictionary cost me $125. Who's going to pay for that?
Hey, you want to look up a book that has been, look up the Tavistock. Buy Tavistock.
Tavistock Institute? Oh my God.
Let me see what it's going. I think it was $3,000 or something.
Jesus.
Yeah. Talk about book burning. So I'm at Amazon. Let's see.
Sure. And I got to get going. I got to wrap this up soon. I got to finish stuff for today.
It's all good. Man, really, oh, wait, here it is. The Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, $4,690.
Man. They just don't want people to know the truth, do they?
$4,000 for a book.
Jesus.
Yeah. Let's see, where am I? So,
Any other topics we didn't hit that you wanted to hit before we go?
no, man, let's just get stuff together and let's work on getting a one-page flyer of why, our neighbors. I know you've said it. You put out flyers. I think they were too. I didn't see them, but I think they might have been too complex. We got to write in Joe the plumbers. Get out of property taxes.
Yeah, and that may be my biggest problem is I'm not good at marketing or anything what I have to give. So it's very hard. Even if
it was probably too truther worded.
Yeah, maybe. And when you get delving into this stuff as hard as I have, I'm sure you have too, and many others, it's so hard to get back to that language level with the rest of society.
The dumb down.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Unfortunately, I guess that's what we have to do if we want to get our neighbor. I mean, we just got to appeal to their wallet and their.
Right. Like, hey, I can save you
sucks.
thousands
It totally
of dollars
sucks.
a year.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But God bless Crow and Jason, but that is not what they're talking about. Is going to go. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh.
But there's a lot of good going on because I've noticed over the years there's been a lot more truth channels coming out, even if they're crazy and off the wall. We're getting it out there.
I know.
A bigger element.
I think that's why they threw all the shoes at us at this time.
Oh, yeah.
They ran the numbers and people were waking up to.
I think they're throwing the big cards now because they realize
all the agendas. When people ask me what's going on, I say, listen, I don't know exactly what's going on. There's so many agendas. What I do know is what they're telling you on TV is 100% false.
Right. Yeah.
But what they're doing, is it transhumanism? Is it, the technocracy, transhumanism?
Yeah.
The one world government, crypto, moneyless, it's all boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, if I could sum it up, I would say the one world government is the end goal for sure. The way they're going to use to get there is some terms that we're not allowed to use. So maybe I can call it Zionism. Might be one of the terms to use. That all came about after the Civil War in the U.S., by the way. And just they had to follow the manifesto, the communism manifesto of Karl Marx of how to break down a society to build that one world order. And depriving people of property rights is one of those check marks. And by God, they nailed that in the U.S. Nailed it.
Long time ago.
Yep. So that's my
I know.
Man. I don't know what else you got or you want to do.
No, that's good. I'm going to work on something. I'll email you about kind of verbiage of what I want to make a flyer up and try to get people.
Sure.
On board.
Get some people involved. Absolutely.
And I don't know if you can send me any, so as far as filing. Again, the Mark Stevens traffic court stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's all good. If anybody wants to go through that, I've been through it. You've been through it.
Yep.
But property and taxes and that's the big thing for me.
Yep.
Listen, I'm getting away with not wearing a mask. I got that covered. Nobody messes with me, but I just don't want to see the end of the year come along and see a property tax or, even a school tax.
Yeah, exactly. Our forefathers try to protect us from it, and we let it go. It was our fault. We let it go.
I agree. Listen, I don't hate the elites whatsoever. The problem to me is my neighbors.
Yeah.
But it's the problem, but also the remedy at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if people just stop obeying, then the Stalins and the Maos have no power. So
yeah,
we've got to focus on we've got to focus on our neighbors
Absolutely.
and family.
All right, man.
So
Oh, this has been fun.
let's craft, stuffs that brings people, our neighbors and family on board,
Yep. We'll do that. I'll talk to you
All right.
offline. We'll get some stuff going.
Indeed. All right. Cheers, buddy.
Yeah, brother. Take care.
All right. Have a good one. Love to you and your family.
Thanks. Same to you.
Yep.